you look at increase in the national minimum wage, when you look at the Renters Reform Act, when you look at the changes in the railways and the freezing of the rail fares, there's a whole stack of things that they've done. But I think what's been very clear from the results of last week, and indeed the interventions from leading Labour politicians over the last couple of days, is it just needs more. It needs more direction, it needs more clarity, and it just needs something a bit more radical about it to grab people's imagination. The sort of the Starmer approach thus far, on one level, is completely understandable. You spend most of, Labour doesn't win elections very often. So you spend the first couple of years of a Labour government trying to reassure people that you can be trusted sort of to run the country. And that makes you a bit sort of small c conservative, as many Labour people would see it. But that's not enough this time. This time, the whole media machine and people's expectations are a lot different. We're a lot hungrier for things to change much more quickly. So that sort of, managerialism, if you like, is not proving very fruitful for Labour in electoral terms. So it needs to be turbocharged, and I think the King's speech will see that. Starmer's speech to Labour tomorrow will see that as well. If he can't do it, well, then of course the knives will be out and the challenge will come. But he's got an opportunity to make a difference and to shift his premiership.
I think the problem is, Stuart, and maybe you'd agree with me, the man doesn't really believe in anything. He's a pen-pushing lawyer, and I'm sure he's a great lawyer. I'm sure he was great as the Director of Public Prosecutions, but he's got no ideology. I don't know what he believes in inherently. I don't know what fires up his soul when he wakes up in the morning and gets him out of bed. I just don't know. I can say the same for Jeremy Corbyn. Sorry, I can say the opposite for Jeremy Corbyn. I can say the opposite for Nigel Farage, for Trump and some other even left-leaning politicians in the UK. I can't say the same for Starmer. I don't know who the guy is.
Well, we had a period of what we thought were sort of more ideologically driven prime ministers, arguably with Liz Truss at the forefront of that, and the kamikaze budget, which crashed the economy and sent everybody's mortgages rapidly upwards. So this was a period where actually some stability, some clarity, and some steady as she goes type government was absolutely what the country wanted. That's why they got a stonking great majority. Now 2 years in, people seem to have shifted. They want more, and those criticisms that you make of Starmer were a couple of years ago the great strengths, now appear to be a bit of a weakness as far as the electorate go. But that doesn't mean to say that he can't turn it around. That doesn't mean to say that the Labour Party is doomed or that this government is doomed.
Yeah, OK. Well, as Angela Rayner said, and I rarely find myself agreeing with Angela Rayner, they need to do something radical and fast. I'd actually have more respect for this government if they just went balls to the floor and cracked on with their ideology, with what they want to do, even if I vehemently disagree with it. But they don't. They're just sedate. You don't know what any of them are for, really, apart from Angela Rayner, I guess, or even Wes Streeting. I just don't know. It's so sedate. It's low energy. It's devoid of ideas and inspiration. It's all really rather pathetic. That's my point.
I mean, look, cutting waiting lists on the NHS is not, devoid of activity. There are policies there. They are changing things, but it appears to be that the electorate want it quicker. They want it faster. Look, and nobody's saying that's wrong, but that's the challenge that faces the government. And anybody that then challenges Starmer, then that's entirely what they have to say. It's all very well and good saying things need to move more quickly, or we need to be more radical or more Labour, but any challenger to Starmer also needs to explain what that really means. What does that look like in terms of policies that the electorate will then be attracted by and vote for at the next general election?
Yeah. All right, Stuart, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thanks for staying up with us on The Late Show Live. Let's get the thoughts of my panel here in DC, Mark Albert and Victoria Churchill as well. Mark, I'm not sure how much sort of invested you are in local council elections in the UK and so on, but does Keir Starmer remind you of Joe Biden? He just refuses to leave and just clings on for dear life.
I'll tell you what reminds me, there's a parallel here. In the US, when there's an impatient electorate, as Stuart just coined, there's a phrase that says, throw the bums out.
Throw the bums out?
Throw throw the bums out. And we saw Britain actually lead the way on this with Brexit. And then 5 months later, there was this sea change and Donald Trump was was elected. And now we're seeing here the local elections in Great Britain. And I wonder whether that is a foreshadowing of what's going to happen here for the midterm elections in November. I'm looking at it as that cross-Atlantic, transatlantic foreshadowing.
You think the Republicans will get wiped out?
I don't know. I'm wondering.
I think they probably will. Victoria?
Well, look, I mean, I think people are fed up, as Mark just pointed out, but I think it'll manifest itself differently here. There is still time for Republicans to kind of win back the favor of voters. Trump was out. I'm sure we'll be talking about it later in the show about Iran saying that they're basically presenting him a deal that's horrible, but at the end of the day, I think he does want to see this war drawn to a close, and he's really putting the onus on them to agree to the deal that the U.S. has presented. And so I think as soon as that wraps up, things will improve here domestically, things like gas prices that people are seeing and being unhappy with at the moment.
Well, I guess he's done one thing which many Brits wish would happen in our country, Paul Cox and Will Kingston, which is close the border and stop illegal immigration. And I'd argue, Will, just do it. Out of all the things that people say that Labour have done well, okay, renters' rights and minimum wage, okay, it benefits a few people. But the big number one issue, cost of living, energy, by the way, energy and immigration, just do it. Sort your immigration policy out. Stop the boats, Will.
And it was interesting when Angela Rayner was talking about the election results, she mentioned pretty much every possible policy area except the one that people really care about, and that is immigration. The thing which I don't understand for this Labor Party is you can tell a really good left-wing story around lower immigration numbers and a strong border. For years now, mass migration has compressed wages and destroyed the working class in this country. This should be an argument that Labor can win, but because they have been overtaken by this progressive, loony left metropolitan elite, they can no longer win that issue. And so reform is going to destroy them as a result of that. This is the problem for Labor. They don't know who they are anymore. They've given up on the working class, but they can't go full-on progressive because the Greens now own that. I don't think they have a future because they are now wedged in between two other options which people have moved to in UK politics.
Yeah, Paul Cox, Starmer getting attacked from the Greens, taking the left of the party, and then Reform taking the sort of centre-right, the working class. So, as Will just rightly said, I don't know who Labour are anymore. Who are their voters? Who are those voters?
It's entirely emotionally weightless. It holds no value anymore. It's a husk. Will's absolutely right. They're caught between being pulled both ways. Do you know what the simple answer is? All they'd have to do is return to traditional Labour values. Yep. The type of values that would have meant they would have hated the EU. The type of values that would have meant they would have hated overpopulation, particularly from illegal immigration. We now live in a country where you can stand in Islamabad and in Birmingham at the same time. And that Labour Party are supporting that equally. It's madness, Ben.
Yeah, and just in the days ahead, Will, your thoughts on whether Starmer will go or not, please? You think he'll hang in there?
Oh, he's going to try and hang in for as long as possible. He is so detached from the reality of the situation. I think he is narcissistic and I think he is highly arrogant. But everyone knows he is a dead man walking. It is now just the machinery around how you actually go about getting rid of him. But there will be no resignation, but I think there will be a challenge.
Paul?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Will on this. Too much wishful thinking sometimes, of which I'm part of. I can't see him standing down tomorrow. I can't see him making it easy, and we're probably in for a few months of absolute chaos. But he will be gone, and he will be gone as a result of these local elections.
Okay, interesting. Lots of people getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. Somebody talking about whether Reform would do a deal with the Tories. I know it's a slightly different subject matter, and indeed it's going to be in 2 or 3 years' time. But I would argue if Reform ever had to do a deal with the Tories, it wouldn't really be a Reform government. It would be a Reform government in name only. Keep those coming in. I'll get stuck into a handful more after the break. For now, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
There's no doubt that the voters have sent us a clear message. I'm very proud of this team. I'm very proud of our leader. I'm very proud to be part of the team here. This is how Labour wins. As Labour, as a team. That's what the Prime Minister will be setting out, I'm sure, on Monday, and he'll have my support.
Well, that man there, I argue, is the best of a bad bunch. I'll talk to someone who met Wes Streeting recently, the Health Secretary. He'll tell me if he thinks he has all the leadership qualities to become Prime Minister. I will say again, I said it last night, Wes Streeting is the only Cabinet Minister to have the balls to come on GB News. And for me, that is a big old tick. I'll see you in a sec.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, the Daily Telegraph tonight is reporting that Wes Streeting has told Sir Keir Starmer that he's preparing his case to be the next Prime Minister. The Telegraph is saying that he's about to launch a leadership bid if his boss, Sir Keir, is forced out of Number 10. Apparently, Number 10 went to Streeting today or yesterday and said, "Oi, Wes, what's this we hear about reports of a leadership bid?" And he said, "Well, I am, but only if it comes up that you will be under challenge." I think Wes said that, you know, I won't be doing it proactively. With me now is somebody who recently met the Health Secretary, former Lib Dem councillor Matthew Holbert. Matthew, good morning. Thank you for joining us again. Good to see you. Hope you've had a good weekend. You met Wes recently. Where did you meet him? What were you doing? And did he give you any sort of gossip you can share with us about his ambitions to become leader of our great nation?
Hi Ben, great to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I met him at the Department of Health. It was about health issues. I lost my mum in July 2022 after she waited 11 hours for an ambulance. She died 2 days later. So I was talking to him about emergency care, but it was really interesting to view him up close. I mean, I guess my impression, Ben, is that, you know, this is clearly someone who gets the politics of politics in a way that I think Keir Starmer never has and shows no ability of being able to do. He was also clearly on a charm offensive. We were supposed to have 30 minutes with him. It ended up being about 50 minutes. So, I mean, he was very gracious with his time. Obviously, we didn't discuss the Labour leadership, but one interesting thing that I should note is that right towards the end of the meeting, I said to him, look, Secretary of State, we'll continue to put pressure on you in terms of the NHS, and then I added, or your successor, depending on what happens in the next few weeks. And he and his staff had a good kind of belly laugh at that. So, I mean, look, you know, I know people who were streeting. I know people, Ben, who knew Wes Streeting at university, and they've told me that he's always been hugely ambitious. I don't think he tries to hide that. But in a way, I kind of like that, the fact that he doesn't pretend that he wants to go all the way to the top. Lots of politicians say, oh, well, you know, maybe, possibly. He doesn't deny it. He wants to be the Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned that sort of joke you made to him in that he didn't deny it. You say they just laughed, did they? And just cracked on.
Yeah, he thought that was very funny. I mean, you know, it was also the day that I met him, Ben, was when there was the vote in the Commons about whether Keir Starmer was going to be referred to the Privileges Committee for allegedly lying to the House of Commons. And right towards the end of the meeting, which, as I say, went on for longer than it was scheduled to do, where Streeting said, well, I've really got to end the meeting now because I've got to go and vote for the Prime Minister. And then he added, I'll be in trouble if I don't. So, I mean, it was quite an interesting insight into the man and into this government. Look, I think, you know, if Keir Starmer goes of his own accord or is forced out, Wes Streeting will be there running for the leadership. What I don't think he's prepared to do is put his head above the parapet before that and actually take Starmer on himself.
He doesn't want to wield the knife. Matthew, Alison Wilson, hello Alison, good morning to you, hope you're well, has said, I don't have any faith in Wes Streeting. He was mentored by Peter Mandelson. It would just be more of the same if he was elected to be Prime Minister. What's your response to that?
Well, that's Wes Streeting's big downfall at the moment, isn't it? Is that he's seen as an ultra Blairite, an ultra Mandelsonite, if that is actually a word. And obviously that's a very bad thing to be seen to be, given everything that has happened. I mean, I have to say personally, and obviously I'm not in Labour, I'm a Lib Dem, I have nothing to do with the Labour leadership contest, but I guess if I was in Labour, I'd probably seek to support kind of Angela Rayner. I think her politics are much closer to mine. I'm certainly on the left of the Lib Dems. Not that that makes me very left, it has to be said, but
the left of the Lib Dems, goodness me.
I guess I'd be...
You'll be the other side of the horseshoe soon, Matthew. You'll be a far right.
I guess I'd be soft left if I was in the Labour Party, Ben. So I'm probably to the left of, I'm definitely to the left of Wes Streeting. But I think it's going to be a very interesting contest. Will we see Ange versus Wes? Is that going to be the big contest? And surely it's time, Ben, for Labour to elect a woman as its leader, no?
Well, they do that typical leftist thing where they preach about equality and diversity, and actually they are the very opposite of what they cry about. How many female MPs of the Tory PMs of the Tories had now? We had Liz Truss, Maggie, and Theresa May. 3. So they've got some catching up to do, Matthew. Anyway, thank you, Matthew. Really appreciate it. Enjoy your week, and we'll catch up soon. Former Lib Dem councillor Matthew Holbert. Let's speak to... can we speak to Will and Paul Cox in London? I want to put this same barb from Alison to both those chaps about Wes Streeting being mentored by Peter Mandelson, because I think it's a really good point from Alison there. And I just wonder if that will be his baggage, Will Kingston, heading into any potential leadership contest, the Mandelson link.
Well, it's part of his baggage, but the bloke has a lot of baggage in addition to that, Ben, in that, Matthew was right in saying that he is closer to the centre of the Labor Party, or at least the old centre of the Labor Party, and that is now out of step with the vast majority of them, who are that sort of progressive brand of politics, which would instinctively go for a Rayner over him. In addition to that, he's going to lose his seat at the next election. A Gaza independent will inevitably take his seat. Now, Labor may not care about that because most of them are going to lose their seats at the next election. But I see so many red flags with Streeting, who is meant to be the so-called safer candidate, that I just don't see how they could make the switch to him.
Paul, same question to you. Is that his big, as with Angela Rayner and her tax affairs, is I think the Mandelson link, which actually I've not really thought much about until I saw Alison's comments, so thank you, Alison. I think that could prove pivotal.
He's the most tainted by Mandelson because he was actually mentored by them. They're all slightly tainted because Mandelson was the architect of New Labour. He was the architect before even Blair and Brown were a thing. So you could argue that Rayner and Starmer are kind of anti-old New Labour. I'm not sure what you'd call it now. However, Wes Streeting's the only politician I can see, the only Labour cabinet politician I can see with a route to the premiership. I mean, Rayner is embroiled in scandal and HMRC aren't helping her out because they're not resolving it. All she had to do was pay 40 grand. You imagine that, actually. Because she didn't pay 40 grand, she's basically chucked her career away. I think that will stop her becoming Prime Minister of the UK. Wes Streeting's the only one with a route. And Andy Burnham, well, he's not even, you know... me and Andy Burnham are in the same position to become Prime Minister, essentially. There is a very, very difficult route for him.
Paul, do you think the Labor base actually cares about the tax stuff, though? If it went to a vote amongst the Labor base, do you think they care about the tax stuff?
No, I don't think they would do. I think that they'd be worried about what it would do for their reputation. Look, they've got this terrible reputation at the moment, and it's very, very difficult for it to get any better. If you put your new Prime Minister in and she's already under scrutiny from HMRC, I think you're off to a bad start.
Right. Let me read some comments to Mark and Victoria here. Who said this? There would be nothing natural about Jan Moir, she's a journalist at the Daily Mail, nothing natural about Jan Moir's death if I shoved the bigoted old bag under a train. Who said that, Victoria?
Would it have been Streeting?
Wes Streeting. In 2009, it was a post on the old Twitter, which his team, the tweets resurfaced a few years ago, and they said it was in bad taste. Is that kind of thing, although it's seemingly settled and done, is that kind of thing... would that stick with him with any sort of leadership run? Would that taint him forever as a Prime Minister? I mean, it's saying you shove a bigoted old bag under a train, that's pretty bad.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, that's quite literally straight out of House of Cards, right? That's what the main character there did. He shoved a journalist into a train.
Oh, maybe he's been watching too much House of Cards. Mark, I'm just talking about the Labour's sort of issue with lurching to the left. Is that the issue with the Democrats here as well, with the likes of Mamdani being elected, and there's other sort of would-be mayors as well? Have the Dems got that issue here?
Well, actually, can I go back to the comment about the journalist? Yeah. So this reminds me, then candidate for Montana governor was caught body slamming a reporter for The Guardian.
Body slamming?
Body slamming.
What, physically
this is in 2017. Slamming? Yep. And the current Montana governor, he was then a candidate. He body slammed Guardian reporter Ben Jacobs at the campaign headquarters. So there is sort of a, I suppose, precedent for politicians getting or wanting to get violent with journalists.
Why the hell did they do that?
He was angry at something that was...
Or something that he wrote?
Yes.
Goodness me, was he okay?
The reporter is okay, but he filed a criminal complaint against them, and I think it was a 6-month deferred sentence for the man who is now the governor.
Wow, yeah. Well, goodness me, I wonder who... I won't advocate violence. I was about to make a joke and say I wonder who Paul Cox would like to body slam, but we'll behave ourselves.
Don't shoot the messenger.
No, yeah, thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Right, OK. Stick with us on the Late Show Live. President Trump has taken to Truth Social in the last few hours or so, attacking a massive news network over here. Not GBNews. Still time for that in the future. But no, maybe one of his allies, and you'll be surprised why. And it's opened up an interesting debate about free speech, about regulation as well, the regulations that we have in the UK compared to the US. We'll get stuck into that in just a tick. First, though, on the Late Show Live.
I don't believe there'll be any pact or deal. I don't think we'll need that. Look at the results you're seeing today.
Here's the big question doing the rounds. Should Reform and the Tories do a deal to unite the right? Well, I'll talk to a Tory and a Reformer next. Don't go anywhere.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, one of the parties that did very well at this week's elections was, of course, Nigel Farage's Reform. That's an understatement. But it's not too good enough, not good enough, if it translated apparently into the general election. The party would not have a majority according to some calculations, although the national vote share equivalent is something like 31%. I think some systems had them on around 280 odd seats. So predictably there are calls for the right to unite and Nigel Farage to do a deal with Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party. I don't even think Kemi will be leader by the time of the next general election. But let's get the thoughts of a reformer and a Tory. Darren Grimes, Reform Councillor for Durham County Council. Hello, Darren, good to see you. And Neil Parish, former Conservative MP. Right, Neil Parish, you want to come running along now, do you, with a deal to cosy up to reform and get back in government and do a sweetheart deal?
I don't know whether I'm going to necessarily cosy up to reform, but I think what we do need to do is respect the fact that the right-wing vote in this country is split between reform and conservative. If we don't do some sort of a deal, what we could get after the next election is a rainbow alliance, basically, because you've got to remember that all the other political parties are the Greens, the Labour Party, the National Party of both Scotland and Wales are all socialists, basically. I was always told a green is like a tomato. It starts off green and then turns red. It's more socialist than the socialists. So I think it's right for the country for us to look at some sort of deal. It may be a fairly loose deal, But I think what would be wrong is to allow the Labour Party back in some sort of coalition with a very low percentage of vote. And you see, I think that while Reform has done very well, and I take my hat off to them, I also think that the Tories didn't do so badly, and we also took Westminster. We did quite well in Swindon. It wasn't all gloom and doom. And come the general election, I think there will be a tightening in the opinion polls. Starmer will probably be gone. The Labour won't be vastly popular, but a little more popular than they are now. And I think the Conservatives will be a bit more popular, probably not as popular as Reform, but not far off it. And that's why I think we should be sensible, because we've got to get taxes down and we've got to get the country moving. That's what it's about. And so the centre-right, it's our duty to do that.
All right, well, listen, I mean, that's a nice pitch from Neil there, but I think actually maybe it's a little bit too past your bedtime, Neil, because you're talking in dreams, in fantasies. This is absurd. The fact of the matter is, in London, you say they did well in London, the Conservative Party. It's because Labour's vote was down 17%, right? The Tories got in by virtue of the Labour Party not doing well by 17%. You've had a good run as the Conservative Party for nearly, over 2 centuries. It's a good innings, but the time is up. You're not asking actually the Reform Party to unite the right. You're asking us to resuscitate the wrong. On everything that you've just mentioned, taxes, immigration, these were all the hallmarks of the Conservative government. And, judging by the polls and the results that we've just had over the past week, we already are replacing the Conservative Party. There is absolutely no need to ally ourselves to the Lib Dems of the right.
Neil's saying you won't get a majority though, so you're just going to let Polanski and Rayner in as PM and Deputy PM. Would you like that?
We just won in Essex. We took the blue wall. In the red wall in the northeast of England, we just took the red wall. In Scotland, we made significant gains. In Wales, we made significant gains. We are already on the right trajectory, and I put emphasis, Ben, on the right trajectory. We are a proud party of the political right, but we no longer just appeal to the right. We appeal to those who have been traditionally on the political left too.
Yeah, can I just say...
Neil, why don't you do the patriotic thing, Neil? Sorry to interrupt. Why don't you do the patriotic thing and stand down?
Certainly not. And there is a real role for the Conservative Party, and we have got real support still in the country. And so I would say to Reform, yes, you're doing extremely well, but I suggest your vote is probably as high as you will see it. This is, election that does not elect a government. It is one where it protests. And so therefore, I'm not taking away the results from you. I'm just saying that if you want to form the next government, and we don't want to allow a rainbow of all sorts of lefties in, then we must really do something. Because lots of by-elections I've fought in lately where it's been Reform, Conservative, and Liberal Democrat, and we have split each other's votes, and the Liberal Democrats have got in. So, like you say, we perhaps supposed to split in London to let us in, but the same will happen in a general election and let the left parties in. So let's be sensible and get together rather than just throw insults at each other, because that does no good. And all it'll do,
absolutely not. I'm not seeking to do that, Neil, but I think like all good-minded people who are watching this programme right now, they would say that the Tories were given an 80-seat majority. They used it to sign net zero into law, not to leave the ECHR, not to stop the boats, not to cut a single quango regulating Britain to death. You didn't actually deliver a proper Brexit. You squandered that opportunity. You told us that you'd cut immigration. You tripled it. You told us that you'd cut taxes. You raised them. That's not a record that we want to ally ourselves with. That's a charge sheet, if you ask me. So ultimately, I think we are the united party on everything from leaving the ECHR. You guys can't decide whether or not you want to do it. So ultimately, I think we are where we are, and Reform UK is our only hope.
Okay.
One thing I will predict,
last
you
word.
will not get elected on your own in the general election, and so therefore let's actually sit down and have some sort of discussion. I'm not saying what, because I think you'll find it'll be a grave mistake to think you can do it on your own, because I don't believe you will.
Okay, great stuff. Thank you both. Really appreciate it. Great back and forth. Darren Grimes, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're well. And Neil Parish as well. Have a good week. I think Darren's line there, which everybody loved on gbnews.com/your say, it's not uniting the right, it's resuscitating the wrong, any talk of a deal. And Nigel Farage yesterday saying absolutely not, the Tories can't be trusted. But what do you think? gbnews.com/your say. Still ahead on the Late Show Live, we're going to be going through the papers, including the front page of the Express. How dare he? PM plots to rip up Brexit. Are you surprised? I'm not. We knew this was coming. Back in a sec.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, this Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, so let's delve into the main stories on the front pages tomorrow, starting with the Daily Express. Will and Paul, are you there? DC calling London. How dare he is the headline. PM plots to rip up Brexit. Will, what a betrayal.
Yeah, but it's hardly surprising, is it? This is the one thing that everyone on the left thinks has created all the problems in this country. That's the one thing they're desperate to try and reverse. For my sins, I occasionally watch the newsagents, and it is so incredibly obvious when you hear people like Emily Maitlis talk they think they just cannot get over Brexit. It is the root cause of every single issue that they talk about on that show. And I dare say that is the type of thinking that sits across the Labor Party as well. So it makes entire sense that they would find some way to try and either go back through the back door, or if they get incredibly desperate, the crack glass in case of emergency option, and taking it as a policy to the election of another vote.
Yeah, but Paul, Keir Starmer saying, you know, we need the EU for the economy, for trade, for defence. We can't do it by ourselves. You know, we used to rule the world. We colonised the world without being in the EU, but now we need the EU. We need the Europeans. We're so pathetic. We need the EU.
Well, I think that's demonstrably untrue. You've only got to look at the EU's economic strength since Brexit to identify that they have not exactly rocketed into the future. They need us as much as we need them. First thing I'd say is any deal that was done with the EU, I wouldn't be looking at what we were getting. I'd look at what they wanted in return. We are being continually punished for having the audacity to leave the EU. And, of course, as Will's already pointed out, there's large swathes of the North London intelligentsia that have essentially ruled over this country for some time now, irrespective of what colour of party they are, that have decided that Brexit was a bad thing. Even those that fought for Brexit, in inverted commas, in the Conservative Party, betrayed it in many ways. So I don't think that we've ever had a sense of what Brexit could achieve, and perhaps we would need somebody in power, dare I say, someone like Nigel Farage, to show us.
Ben, can I follow up on that point, how we need the EU? Look, you know, I've got no problem with trade with Europe. In fact, I think we do need to trade with Europe. The problem with the European Union is that you have to go along with all of the regulations, the fees that they are going to charge us, and the secession of sovereignty to European bodies and courts at the same time. So we should be aiming to trade with them, but if they say that you have to then get stuck in the regulatory morass that we were when we were part of the European Union, that should be unacceptable.
Yeah, and just on, let's get the thoughts of Mark and Victoria. Just on the facts, the point, Paul, that you made about the UK being punished for daring to vote for Brexit. I argue we're not just being punished by European nations, France mainly, who are doing sod all to stop those votes, despite the hemorrhaging of money we're giving them, but also by our own governments. I mean, Boris Johnson, I'll talk about it again, the Boris wave, 1.2 million. We got rid of all the hard-working Eastern Europeans, the Poles, the Latvians, the Estonians, and what happened? You don't know what you got till it's gone. Instead, we had 1.2 million. Well, there was some Ukrainians and Hong Kongers in there, but you know, mostly sub-Saharan Africans, Indians, Bangladeshis. Totally different sort of wave of demographic. Mark, why don't we, the United Kingdom, cozy up to America? You are our great friends. Would you rather we did that than look to Europe?
Well, I'm trying to look through my memory banks. I think you guys are cozying up to us. Wasn't the UK the first trade deal announced by Donald Trump once he got back into office in 2025? I think that was the first trade deal, wasn't it?
He threatened to re-look at it again. He said we can always look at it again after the Iran situation. So Starmer's not making him very happy.
Well, Donald Trump isn't very happy right now either. But I do think that for all of the strain with the special relationship, we need you, you need us, and I don't think that's going to change.
Okay. Victoria, what's your take?
I mean, I think we look back at the King's visit earlier, or I guess it was last month now, it's May. At the end of last month, I think that went really well to combing over the special relationship, making it better. And I think that goes to show that, you know, particularly if Starmer is out of office, that Trump is going to do his best to maintain and create a better relationship with whoever his replacement will be.
Okay. Linda said on your site, no, Ben, Starmer needs the EU to stop immigration because his smash the gangs policy has totally failed. I don't think we need the EU, I'd argue, Linda. I agree he's failed, but we can stop it by ourselves. We don't need the EU. Back in a sec on The Late Show Live. More coming up, including this.
But I had a long talk with President Putin. I suggested a little bit of a ceasefire, and I think he might do that. He might announce something having to do with it.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking at the week ahead, it is going to be feeling cool for the time of year. We do have sunny spells today and then more in the way of showers as we head midweek. We have an area of low pressure out there today though, and this cold front is bringing outbreaks of rain across Wales, the Midlands, the southeast of England, and continuing to break up as it pushes its way southwards. To the north of that though, plenty of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, Northern England, and eventually into Wales. It is feeling cool though for the time of year, and with this northerly wind along eastern coast, it's going to be feeling particularly cool here. Through Monday evening then, we actually hold on to a good deal of sunshine initially across much of Scotland, so a fine end to the day here, but to the west we'll start to see the next weather system approaching, bringing some outbreaks of rain across the far west of Scotland. Across Northern Ireland, some late evening sunshine, and that persists across much of southern Scotland into northern England, Wales and the south. Still some showery outbreaks of rain still possible across the southern parts of England. So through Monday evening, we have the next weather front approaching across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So cloud thickening here, some showery outbreaks of rain. Ahead of that, though, we hold on to the clearest skies across the southwest of England into East Anglia and the southeast. So here is going to be another chilly night to come. Temperatures falling away. We could see a touch of frost, but milder now across Scotland and Northern Ireland as we start Tuesday morning, given the amount of cloud cover. So a bright but chilly start across the southeast. That cloud will start building as we head into the afternoon with showery outbreaks of rain again across Wales and the Midlands. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and frequent showers, but for all of us, still rather cool, but hopefully in the sunshine up to 17 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, live from Washington DC. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
But I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. I think the right thing to do is to rebuild and show the path forward.
He always looks so scared, doesn't he? And supremely worried about something. The Prime Minister there in big trouble after those dire local election results. Well, breaking tonight, he will give a major speech in London later today on Monday in which he'll announce closer ties to the European Union. I'm sure that will do it. It comes as Health Secretary Wes Streeting has apparently made his own leadership bid, and former Deputy PM Angela Rayner says he's on his last chance. Meanwhile, breaking tonight, any hopes of the Iran war being over have been dashed by President Trump after he dramatically rejected their latest offer of a deal, calling it totally unacceptable. Iran, by the way, have also threatened the UK with severe consequences if we send HMS Dragon to the Strait of Hormuz.
I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person.
Are you worried?
I think he's a friend of mine.
If I wasn't this colour skin, if I wasn't practicing Muslim, he would have come for me. He wasn't coming for me because I'm 5'6", right? He's come for me because of, let's be frank, my ethnicity and...
Ding ding, again, another scrap between President Trump and Sir Sadiq Khan to you. It's the Mayor of London's time to land a blow, saying his city is the antithesis of Donald Trump, whatever that means.
But I had a long talk with President Putin. I suggested a little bit of a ceasefire, and I think he might do that. He might announce something having to do with it.
Putin has hinted at a ceasefire in Ukraine. I was just trying to work out what that big golden globe was on the president's desk. I'll reveal all the details about the Ukraine situation in just a second. I'll talk to a Ukrainian expert as well and ask them, is this really going to happen after so many close calls before? I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Remember, no... Hello, good morning. Hope you've had a wonderful weekend. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me in Washington is my panel, journalist and broadcaster Mark Albert and the US political correspondent Victoria Churchill. And in London, comedian Paul Cox and GB News contributor Will Kingston. Hello, chaps. Thank you for your company. Right, let's crack on with the news this hour. President Trump has tonight dashed any hopes of a ceasefire after seeing Iran's response to a US proposal for peace talks to end the war. He's taken to Truth Social, the president, and said, I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable, said Trump. Well, in response to that, reports out of the Middle East say Iran say that his response doesn't matter at all. Iranian state media reported that Iran's proposal stressed the need for United States to pay compensation for war damages and emphasised their sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Long story short, Iran are doing something that maybe David Lammy would approve of, which is asking for reparations of the United States for the US bombing their nation. But it comes, of course, after Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister on X said the presence of French and British warships in the Strait of Hormuz, potentially accompanying the illegal and internationally unlawful actions of the US, his words, not mine, will be met with immediate, decisive response. So they're threatening the Brits now as well. Very good. With me now is geopolitical expert and friend of the show, Kate Jones. Hello, Kate. Great to see you. Hope you're well. Should we start on this threat towards the UK, bearing in mind we're a UK news network? Keir Starmer tried so hard not to get involved in this conflict. Well, now he is, sending HMS Dragon to the Middle East, and Iran saying, oi, watch yourself.
Yeah, so that is expected, but this is more about the policing of the strait and a potentially later mission. And at the moment, you know, this is just the Iranians being threatening when they don't really have the cards here. And I think what their biggest issue is trying to buy time in any way they can, and they're trying to discourage anyone from being helpful. They're probably 100% aware that the Great Britain and France are just doing a policing mission, and they're trying their very best to stay out of this. So it's international waters. There's no threat. They're actually, interfering with the free shipping in international waters through the strait. If you wanted to cross into Iranian waters, that would be one thing. But these are international waters. There are rules.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the latest issue, I guess, on Keir Starmer's desk. I know he's got probably more pressing matters at home, may not even be Prime Minister in a few weeks, but I'm sure he didn't need that from the Iranians. Kate, can we just talk about this really sort of, for me, it's quite a bizarre demand from the Iranians asking for reparations or sort of compensation for the fact that the US has bombed their country. I mean, it sounds balmy to me, but is that feasible?
Oh, they're just playing probably right out of the Russian hand, probably suggesting to them the same thing that the Ukrainians are asking for reparations and from the war. There's long lists and high levels of activity to ask the Russians to repair Ukraine. They've been keeping a tally all along, as well as war crimes. So, I think they're just probably the Russians said, oh, just go ask for that. Well, that's a potential reason. I don't really think any of this is realistic or even logical.
Okay.
But could we talk a
President
little
Trump
about
heading
the
to
president's...
China.
Oh, yeah, his visit to China, sure. That one is a relationship not built at all on trust, but built on strategic leverage. And the two countries do have an absolute necessity to sort of balance this trade issue. And they're going to talk about three specific areas: aerospace, energy, and agriculture. And we're talking about, two-digit billions of dollars worth of trade. Xi's going to do his best to work with Trump as a negotiator and try to not get too much aggressive concerns about Taiwan, because obviously Taiwan is a #1 interest for the United States because of semiconductor reliance. But I suspect it'll be a cordial visit, and some of this Iranian behavior, it's built around the fact that President Trump is on his way to China. And of course, China is a large importer of Iranian oil. So they're just kind of being pushy. There's not really much intent here to do anything that's not disruptive. And I think one of the interesting things that came out of the day was the comment from President Trump, about being able to see every ID badge that comes in or out of any kind of nuclear facility, and that the U.S. can handle all of that nuclear material and will do it. So I thought that was kind of a strong response. But also, look, there is ISR capability. I think what he's really doing is signaling to the Iranians that the United States has a layered and integrated intelligence system run through Space Force that can actually see what they're doing if they attempt to move material. So I think that's what they're really trying to say is, we see what you're doing. That capability's gone a long, long way since the past. And, the ability to see everything that's on the ground, it's not down to the badge level, but it's significant.
Kate, can I ask you, the #1 non-negotiable for the US, as I understand, is that enriched uranium, and there were calls for the uranium to be stored in the United States. I think Tehran was saying, no, we'll store it inside the country. But surely the only way to get that uranium is boots on the ground, no? Can you ever see a scenario where Tehran gives it up willingly?
Well, I can give you one more scenario, and that's when you use these massive bunker busters and you drop these weapons on their facilities with the intent, not because they're so deeply buried. Everyone says, oh, it's not ruined, it hasn't been destroyed, it's still there. Well, what about when you're leaking enough radiation not to hit the surface level, but enough that people can't use that center anymore? There's a risk for Iran that if the U.S. goes and puts these bombing missions back out there and takes that minimal risk, that there's enough radiation that leaks to cause a problem, they will also not have access anymore to that material. So that's one way that you can get rid of all their nuclear material, by causing a minor internal accident inside one of their facililis that gets buried enough that it doesn't leak out. And I don't think that's the United States' interest to do that, but it's possible.
This may sound like a silly question, but do the United States know where the uranium is? Is it in one spot, or is it spread across different sites? Have they any idea where it is, or is it a game of sort of whack-a-mole?
It's many sites, but they're very aware of everything that goes in. I mean, the United States has persistent image tracking, satellite tracking, low orbit tracking, intelligence on the ground. I mean, you just think back to the days of the Stuxnet mission, the cyber attack on the Iranian nuclear facilities. It's come a long way since then, and it hasn't gone off the radar, not one day. And so, yes, they see every truck, they see every movement, they see all the material, they see what goes on in the Caspian Sea, they see where Russia's been helpful. So the tracking is exquisite. And I'm not sure that the Russians or the Iranians have quite understood exactly how much the United States can see.
Okay, and you say, just finally, you say that's through Space Force, they have that intelligence. The Space Force, of course, was it founded by President Trump, is that right?
Yeah, Space Force was founded by President Trump, but Space Force is more of the sort of military domain of that. It's coming from the National Reconnaissance Organization that actually monitors the satellites, puts the satellites up. NGA, the National Geospatial Agency, which actually looks at all of the material and reads that and then gives interpretive data back. And then that goes all to Space Force, but then you also have other intelligence that is being fused, things like pattern of life. Every time a truck moves to a place, we watch the person that gets out. We look at the patterns either on social media or anything where we can find any kind of tracking of any kind of signals. Did they carry a phone with them? Where did they put it? What did they do with it? All that stuff can be tracked. I mean, honestly, you can triangulate somebody on the ground within a meter as long as there are other signals that are passing. So it's very easy to follow and track where people are going and what they're doing. And one of the changes to this is now the United States has persistent intelligence 24/7, 365 days a week. They can see everything that's happening on the ground all the time. And then you add that to all of the other intelligence capabilities, and then look at the Israeli pairing. They've got exquisite human intelligence on the ground. When you pair what Israel has with what the United States has, yes, they can see what's going on. So I think maybe the Iranians are not quite understanding the level of that. Pair that off with like AI and, so basically you have a full fusion of all of this information, plus cyber attack capabilities.
Well, all I can say, Kate, is I'm glad I am so insignificant that the US intelligence services are absolutely not interested in anything I do, I have to say. I guess there's still time, but I'll promise to behave myself if anyone's listening. I'm sure you are.
They wouldn't, though. They wouldn't, though. So, that's again, these are laws. Although I will tell you that the truth on this one is that sometimes when an intelligence agency doesn't have the information that they want, they will ask another friend. So, yeah. But trust me, all the nefarious actors probably know all about us anyway.
All right, great stuff. Kate, fascinating speaking to you. Thank you so much. Have a great week, and we'll speak soon. Kate Jones, geopolitical expert. Let's speak to my panel now here in DC, Mark Albert and Victoria Churchill. Mark, so much to go on with Iran still. I'll get your reaction, actually. Let's play a quick clip. This is President Trump talking about the uranium, saying he's going to blow up, well, as he has done for months on end, he's going to blow them all up. Take a look.
Where are we in the war if we've not yet gotten the nuclear materials, the enriched uranium from them?
Well, we'll get that at some point, whatever we want. We have it surveilled. I did a thing called Space Force, and they are watching that if somebody walked in, they can tell you his name, his address, the number of his badge. No, we have that very well surveilled. If anybody got near the place, we will know about it, and we'll blow them up. We'll blow them up.
Mark, just your take generally on Iran. It needs to be wrapped up soon, I argue, for the Republicans' sake, politically.
We are now just under 6 months until the midterm elections, about 177 days or so. Gas prices a year ago, $3.15 a gallon. A month ago, $4.16 a gallon. A week ago, $4.43 a gallon. And today, $4.53 a gallon, an increase of 44% in a year. Now, that's inflation.
Ooh.
And so that is a tough headline heading into the midterm elections.
Scott Bessent was suggesting that, so crude oil at the moment, the futures are $94 a barrel. Scott Bessent was saying that gas stations, petrol stations, as our Brits call them, were not bringing prices down fast enough, i.e. they're taking advantage of the situation.
I mean, I think that's an interesting thing that you bring up from him there. I think one thing that I have seen as I was watching the Sunday shows earlier today, the administration toying around with was potentially eliminating the gas tax. When they were asked, I forget what show it was on and who the administration member was, but they basically wouldn't commit to doing that. But I think that's actually something that they could do to bring prices down dramatically, or to bring what people actually pay dramatically. And I think that would help, especially again, as I've brought up for weeks on end now. Of course, we're going into the summer travel season, things like that. People are really feeling the pain at the pump. I think they're already going to be electing more for road trips rather than flights, because jet fuel is also up astronomically. Prices really all across the world are up. And then, of course, it's being spent more, even when you look at, in Europe, anytime that they try to go, they have to avoid everything that's going on in the Middle East. So that's kind of being a drag. So there's multiple kind of reasons why this Middle East conflict is dragging on gas prices.
Yeah, I mean, we had it in the UK, Will and Paul Cox, Will Keys and Paul Cox, with energy prices. Do you remember when Russia first launched their invasion of Ukraine, wholesale energy went through the roof? Then it came down a bit, and the barb towards the energy firms was you are not passing on the reduction to consumers. And indeed, Shell posted, I think, record profits for the last quarter in the wake of the Iran conflict. So I don't know what governments can do on firms, gas stations and so on, and people like Shell and Esso, but we saw it in the UK, Will.
Well, they can start by reducing the enormous taxes that they put on petrol prices, in addition to the cost of the actual raw material itself, Ben. But the other problem I would point to more generally for the White House is that there is a sentiment which is starting to settle both in the UK, in Europe, but more importantly for them, in the United States, that this war was a mistake. In conversations in the pub, in the media, it's now getting to a point where a lot of people are just saying, you know what, we take it as read that this was a folly from Trump. And I think partially that is because the White House have stopped telling the story for why this war was important. Both the moral imperative around the evil of this regime, the need to stop the nuclear threat from Iran, as well as to degrade their leadership and their military capabilities. I haven't heard that as much from the White House in the last few weeks, and as a result of that, I now get the sense that people are starting to go, you know what, this is something which we all universally agree was a problem. He needs to go back out and start selling why this is important and why it's still the right thing to do.
All right, Mark was just about to say something. Mark?
I just wanted to follow up on the comment about the taxes now that we've been talking about. So in the U.S., the federal gas tax on gasoline is 18.4 cents. For diesel, it's a little bit higher. So that 44% increase in a year, it would take it down to 40%. Lowering the federal gas tax for any temporary amount of time is not going to solve this political issue before November.
What's the rate, sorry?
18.4 cents. USD per gallon for gasoline, 24.4 cents per gallon for diesel, and that's about 4% of the current price per gallon.
UK rates, Paul, fuel duty just under 53 pence per litre. That's crazy, is that right?
Yes, it's absolutely right.
VAT and tax per litre.
Yes, absolutely. Around about 50% of the profit goes straight to our government to spend woefully on all sorts of nonsense, Ben. And it's a big issue. Of course it's a big issue. It's also very hypocritical. All the time they're going on about net zero, which of course is a little bit of a farce, as we're all aware. They're investing heavily in fossil fuels because they're relying incredibly, or significantly, should I say, on us buying fossil fuels. And I think it's just... I think they're just playing the public the whole time. The people who sell us the petrol at the petrol stations, the people who buy the oil, the people who turn it into fuel for our homes, it's all one massive great Ponzi scheme, and everybody's benefiting except the consumer. I can't think of one consumer. And I'll tell you why I understand this the way I do, is because many moons ago you used to be able to sell solar energy that you would, if you had solar panels on your home, let's say 2,000 in the UK, which has been very rare, you could have sold a lot of that back to the grid for a handsome profit. As soon as they realised that people were able to do that, they made it almost impossible for anyone to make a profit and just about possible to manage their own home. This is all about taxing people to death to get the money they require to spend on all of their follies, Ben.
Yeah, it's interesting that you hear a lot of especially sort of left-leaning students, socialists and so on, they'll say, we need to go after the big corporations, they're stripping the little man of his ability to just have a normal life, and yet they still push the net zero agenda. Which, like, well, okay, you could drill in the North Sea, you could become energy abundant, you could even frack in the UK, as they do here for shale gas, turn the countryside into Swiss cheese, and it would solve a hell of a lot of problems. And yet they are so opposed against it. Likewise, there's a contradiction with immigration as well. They say, everybody come in, open borders, everybody welcome in, I'm a really good person, and yet we're not building enough houses. So, and then they complain that rents are too high and house prices are too high. So it's just a walking contradiction everywhere, Will.
Yeah, it is. Paul, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, sorry. All I was going to say is... No, we sound exactly the same. We look very similar, actually. We both look like Alex Armstrong as well. It's very difficult to tell us all apart, to be honest. You're absolutely right, Ben. But look, the economy, it can only be built on abundance of fuel. The reason the Industrial Revolution became such an industrial revolution is because it was entirely powered by the UK's ability to generate its own fuel and then generate taking over the world. We let America get on with it. We gladly gave it back. We weren't interested in them at all, of course. I can't remember what history says, but I think we just, whatever. And we decided that, we were going to be great. I mean, obviously the environment is very important. It's incredibly important, in fact. But there's been a lot of alarmism, a lot of scaring. Al Gore is responsible for nearly all of the net zero worries that we have right now. If only America had voted Net Gore in as president, we wouldn't have half of this trouble now, because he had loads of time on his hands and he realised that he had the biggest grift of the 21st century, which was net zero to play with, and boy did he play with it. He made himself a multi-millionaire, which he probably was already, and now we're all suffering. You can only build an economy on cheap and abundant fuel.
Well, talking of the economy, got a breaking news line that's just dropped. A new report warns Britain could lose more than 160,000 jobs this year as the economic fallout from the Iran war hits businesses and households. 160,000 jobs. The Item Club says rising energy costs, disrupted supply chains and weaker consumer spending will hit manufacturing, retail and hospitality sectors hardest. South Wales and the Humber are expected to suffer the biggest regional impact, while London could see 25,000 jobs lost this year alone. Mark, just a very quick comment on that. What's your take as an American of the fact that President Trump has done something lots of Brits would love our leadership to do, which is basically scrap net zero and he calls climate change a hoax. I mean, I think the idea of man-made climate change is real, but he doesn't really care about it. He's just gone full throttle.
The U.S. is going to have the same challenge that many countries around the world do. They've got a growing population, even though in some places it's slowing, and they're not going to have enough energy. And so whether it is from wind power, whether it's from nuclear, whether it's from coal, wherever it's from, you've got to solve the problem that communities, just like in the United States, need more power. Look at the data centers and the challenge that is now brought to communities across the country. We're in the Washington, D.C. area. Loudoun County, which is one of the surrounding counties, has more data centers per capita, I think, than any other county in America. So it is an energy challenge. Just saying that climate change is a hoax or just saying I don't like windmills because they may kill birds, that's not solving the issue. What are we going to do, both here and in the UK, to solve our hunger for energy?
I met a guy actually on a night out at a karaoke bar in DC a few nights ago. He worked.
You solved it at the karaoke bar.
Well, no, he was very drunk, but he builds all the data centers all across the United States. He runs a massive company, and the government contracts his company to build these data centers. And he was telling me about how energy intensive they are. Just huge propositions.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And, I'm actually from the West Coast, from Washington State, where they've seen massive investments in hydropower from water. We've got massive waterfalls. We've got the Columbia River down there. And that's been one way that state has looked to tackle. So, I think one thing that you're looking at with the Trump administration is the all of the above energy approach. And I think that's something that could be successful with them. But, absolutely, you're correct that these are a massive drag on the energy system. And of course, the other thing that people are looking at is nuclear. I believe just across the border in West Virginia, there's some nuclear activity that they're starting up here, these kind of micro reactors that could
I've heard about these.
Yeah, if you're in touch, I can put you in touch with somebody to maybe go for a tour if that's something
Oh,
you're
yes,
interested in.
there's another karaoke bar involved in that one. But on the all of the above strategy, that would include the wind farms that were being built off the east coast of the United States that the Trump administration has tried to stop in court. It would involve all of these things to try to get the insatiable demand for energy in the U.S. and in other countries satisfied. But right now, we have more demands than we have energy.
Do you class nuclear as clean?
I don't know, actually. I do not know if it's clean or not.
You?
Yeah, I believe it's like the cleanest form of energy that we have.
The big concern used to be where you store the nuclear waste. I think in the UK there's a big site in Cumbria. I think it's in Cumbria.
Well, the waste, that's been a 30-year, going back to Harry Reid. He did not want it at Yucca Mountain in Nevada. He fought to stop it. It is not there. And so, yes, what do you do with the nuclear waste? That has been an absolute huge debate here in the U.S. for 30 years now.
Okay, Will Kingston, quick comment from you on this job situation. The report suggesting 160,000 jobs are going to be lost. Humber and South Wales particularly hit hardest.
Yeah, I just...
Again, more proof if you ask me. Go on.
Yeah, I just find the framing of this story so frustrating. The Iran war is the new Brexit in that it is the cause of all the problems in this country, according to Labor and the left. It is a factor, but the fact of the matter is the Labor Party have hammered businesses for the last 2 years, whether it be through taxes, whether it be through new employment laws, whether it be through new regulations. That's the real reason why jobs growth is low. It's not because Donald Trump made a foreign policy decision in the Middle East. And we need to be really clear that when you have Labor who will try and use the Iran war as an excuse, that really this is the consequences of bad policy in this country.
Lots of viewers asking, where is this report from? Who is the source of this report saying 160,000 jobs could be up for grabs? Well, lost, rather. It's from the Item Club. The Item Club is the independent Treasury economic model. It was founded in 1977 to produce economic UK forecasts. The UK model is used by the Treasury for its policy analysis and biannual Industry Act forecasts for the budget. So there we go. It's linked to the Treasury, to the government. So I guess, call me a conspiracy theorist. You could say this is the government indirectly saying, see, look what trouble the Iran war has caused everybody. 160,000 jobs. Right, let's move on, shall we? Vladimir Putin has suggested the war in Ukraine could be coming to an end. That's despite both sides accusing each other of ceasefire breaches. The Russian president made the comments after a scaled-back Victory Day parade in Moscow held during a brief 3-day US-backed ceasefire, and that ceasefire came specifically so Russia could hold this event. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Russia has reduced large-scale missile attacks, but insists fighting along the front line continues, with 3 people killed in Russian drone strikes and more than 200 clashes on areas near the front line reported since Saturday. Actually, I read yesterday something like 1,000 Russian soldiers are dying a day, and Putin having much trouble recruiting new fodder for the war machine. President Trump, meanwhile, had hoped the ceasefire would mark the beginning of the end of the conflict, but with both sides accusing each other of violations, those expectations now appear increasingly fragile. Let's get the thoughts of former US Marine, captain and filmmaker on Ukraine topics, Colby Barrett. Colby, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. So Russia just had this big military parade. It was 3 days. It was Victory Day, as far as I remember, celebrating the victory over the Nazis. But it was scaled back because Ukraine have these long-range missiles now that can strike deep into Russia. And I think there was concern that if the Russians put all their top hardware out, it could be up for attack. Is that the case, Colby?
That's right. Just the tangible representation of Russia's the turning of tide in this war. So for the last 2 decades, the Victory Day parade would be tanks and ballistic missiles, all kinds of armored personnel carriers. They weren't able to bring that equipment there for 2 reasons. One is most of it's burning in eastern Ukraine. And the second piece is that nearly 70% of Russia's population is now under threat of Ukrainian missile and drone attack. So this shows Putin's weakness here. He had to actually call and beg President Trump to then reach out to President Zelensky to not hit his Victory Day parade. It was 45 minutes. The only equipment that they showed was on video monitors. They were too afraid to actually bring their equipment there for the parade.
Interesting. So, could I suggest that Putin is looking for an off-ramp to end this war?
You know, that's the hope, right? You think about this guy, he's out there, he's looking at just a scaled back parade, really no foreign leaders coming to attend it. They've lost over 1.3 million casualties in this war so far, something like 30,000 to 35,000 per month, way more than they can recruit. And then in April alone, they lost 116 square kilometers of territory. That's the first time they've lost land since back in 2024. So a rational person would say, hey, look, I'm losing here. Probably a good time to sue for peace, because if I don't, I'm going to fail my economy, fail my country, or end up like most of the dictators, Gaddafi and Bashar al-Assad and those folks. I think, though, I have a more cynical view of this. I think Putin's push towards peace here is really delaying. Most of the times when you see him reaching out for peace, there's a tactical objective. In my opinion here, if you look at what's coming up on May 16th, it's the expiration of the sanctions waiver, allowing Russia to sell oil on the open market. I think this is an olive branch to try to delay that sanctions waiver and have that stay in effect. And so I think it's really just a tactical pause there. But I'm cynical when it comes to Putin, so I'll have to admit my bias there.
Yeah, interesting. And what has changed? You mentioned Russia is losing more ground now than they have in recent years, and the tide seems to be turning. So what has changed? Is it these long-range missiles that we mentioned that can now reach deep into Russian territory? Is that the case?
It is. It's all of the above, right? So you look at the sanctions that the West has put on Russia. It didn't have any immediate effect, but that stuff is really starting to bite. And then you look at just their military spending. I think their budget for manpower this year is $50 billion, up from $39 billion. And one of the things to look at that, they're now spending more on payments to widows for dead soldiers than they are on live soldiers. And then you combine that with with Ukraine's ability to manufacture and deploy homegrown weapons. Something like 50 to 70% of Ukraine's weapons are now produced domestically. And stuff like the Flamingo missile with these huge ranges, every single thing you look at in terms of factors of this war is trending towards Ukraine and not towards Russia. And so I really hope that Putin's seeing this and saying, hey, time to stop. I'm going to lose this. It's going to be really bad. But I am more cynical on this. I think he's just playing for time. And this is a very dangerous game for him. If you look at President Trump in particular, doesn't like being played, and he doesn't like losers. And so if you come out there as a loser and try to play the administration in these peace negotiations, that's not going to end well for Putin.
Yeah, those Flamingo missiles you mentioned, I think in the first year or so of the war, because Ukraine was reliant on Western permission to use them, they only fired off around, I think it was the figure was something around 200, but now in the last 12 months or so, I think it's in the region of more than 7,000 because they're producing them domestically. Is that right, Colby?
That sounds right. And one of the things that Ukraine was begging for a long time was Tomahawk missiles. And they didn't get those. And so, Ukrainians that I've met are very scrappy and very technologically savvy. They essentially made their own domestic equivalent, and they're able to do them way faster, way cheaper than Tomahawk. So it's actually a bit of a blessing in disguise when some of those weaponry wasn't brought into Ukraine. They figured it out and made their own. So it's pretty cool to see.
Okay. If you don't mind, Mark Albert's here, US journalist, broadcaster. He's got a quick question for you, Colby. Mark, take it away.
Hi, Colby. Mark Albert here. Thanks very much for your service, Semper Fi. I'm curious what you think would actually force Putin to call it quits. What would do it? What would make him cry uncle, do you think?
The worry here is that if he stops this war, he's very likely to be deposed. And so being in a state of war is one where he can control not only that narrative, but also his own population. And you're starting to see this in Russian social media, more people openly criticizing both the war and Vladimir Putin. That's really new. That's in the last month or two. And so I think the thing that would really get him to stop in terms of things that we can affect as the West is reimpose those sanctions on oil, help Ukraine with their domestic weapons production, do it in a way that's not a handout. So partner with them. These Flamingo missiles are pretty amazing. Let's partner with them on those in ways that strengthen the Western militaries as well. And you were talking earlier about the all of the above energy approach. I think the all of the above pressure approach is what's going to finally cause Ukraine to win, and win in a way that won't invite further aggression from Putin. One of the things that he's been pushing for is to take over the Donbass. I'm a math guy. The Donbass, the remaining piece is like 6,000 square kilometers. Russia has 27 million square kilometers of land. Why do they want that extra 6,000? The reason is that's where the fortress belt is. So if they take that over, when they want to re-invade Ukraine, it's flat plains all the way to Kyiv. So it shows their intention. So I think the big thing is don't give in, don't take these signs of peace as some kind of sea change in Putin's heart. Keep the pressure up, and that's the quickest way to end the killing and to end the war.
Okay. Colby, great stuff. Fascinating hearing you speak. I could sit here all night. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but really appreciate you being on The Late Show Live. Thank you so much, Colby.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Right, gbnews.com/your sake. Maybe we are coming to an end. President Trump, with this 3-day ceasefire, so they could hold a Victory Day parade, said that hopefully it is the beginning of the end. Maybe they can come to some sort of agreement. But as Colby was just saying, you can't trust Putin with a barge pole, so make of that what you will. George, on your say, said Putin didn't think twice about attacking Ukraine and bombing Ukrainian cities and towns. Now Putin's losing, he wants peace. Wouldn't it be the perfect time for Ukraine to now attack Russia? I think Putin is pretending to want peace to build his troops and weapons. Yeah, George, they are, with these Flamingo missiles, which they're now producing themselves. They are penetrating deep inside Russian territory. I think Colby said just there that Ukraine can now hit 70% of Russian territory, which is pretty amazing, really, when you think of where they were just some years ago. Right, thank you for that. Still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
I'm not a fan of your mayor.
Why not?
I think he's done a terrible job, the mayor of London, but a nasty person.
Are you worried?
I think he's a friend of mine.
If I wasn't this colour skin, if I wasn't practicing Muslim, he would have come for me. He wasn't coming for me because I'm 5'6", right? He's come for me because of, let's be frank, my ethnicity.
Whose team are you on? Sir Sadiq Khan or President Trump? I guess Sadiq Khan was the person who inflated that giant blimp of Trump in a nappy, a diaper, as the Americans call it, above London when he came to town. That was a bit rude, wasn't it? I can't really remember who started it. We'll discuss that more after your weather. See you in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking at the week ahead, it is going to be feeling cool for the time of year. We do have sunny spells today and then more in the way of showers as we head midweek. We have an area of low pressure out there today, though, and this cold front is bringing outbreaks of rain across Wales, the Midlands, the southeast of England, and continuing to break up as it pushes its way southwards. To the north of that, though, plenty of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, Northern England, and eventually into Wales. It is feeling cool, though, for the time of year, and with this northerly wind along eastern coast, it's going to be feeling particularly cool here. Through Monday evening then, we actually hold on to a good deal of sunshine initially across much of Scotland, so a fine end to the day here. But to the west, we'll start to see the next weather system approaching, bringing some outbreaks of rain across the far west of Scotland. Across Northern Ireland, some late evening sunshine, and that persists across much of southern Scotland into Northern England, Wales and the south. Still some showery outbreaks of rain still possible across the southern parts of England. So through Monday evening, we have the next weather front approaching across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So cloud thickening here, some showery outbreaks of rain. Ahead of that, though, we hold on to the clearest skies across the southwest of England into East Anglia and the southeast. So here is going to be another chilly night to come. Temperatures falling away. We could see a touch of frost, but milder now across Scotland and Northern Ireland as we start Tuesday morning, given the amount of cloud cover. So a bright but chilly start across the southeast. That cloud will start building as we head into the afternoon with showery outbreaks of rain again across Wales and the Midlands. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and frequent showers, but for all of us, still rather cool, but hopefully in the sunshine up to 17 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back. Let's run through the papers tomorrow, shall we? Starting with the Eye. The headline reads, "Today or never to save your job, Labour MPs tell Keir Starmer." Front page of the Mail says, Streeting and Rayner ready for Starmer's fall. This is Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, and former Deputy PM Angela Rayner plotting, circling like vultures, metaphorically. The Mirror, change before it's too late. Rayner in stinging swipe at PM's record and Starmer to lay out his fight-back agenda. So Keir Starmer's big speech later this morning on Monday. I wonder what he'll say. Well, we already know really what he's going to say. He's going to say that he's going to crack on, and he gets it. I don't think he does. The Guardian, Labour leadership rivals circle as Starmer tries to cling on to power. The Metro, fight or go, Challenger tells Starmer. I mean, it's the same thing for every paper, really. The Times, PM fights to save his skin after Rayner ultimatum. And the medical team parachuted in to treat the cruise virus islander. I think 20-odd Brits who were on one of the hantavirus cruises have now landed back in the UK. I hope they're clean. The Telegraph, Wes Streeting, I'm ready to be Prime Minister. Sure you are. And the Sun splashes with Strictly. That's a good change. It's Emma. That's Emma Willis, the new host of Strictly Come Dancing. Mum of 3 will be the new Tess Daly. And nice little nib there on the left-hand side. 1-0 to the Arsenal. Great game, top of the league. 2 games to go. Will it be our year? Fingers crossed, Gunners. And the Express, how dare he? PM plots to rip up Brexit. Right, let's speak to Will, Paul and Victoria and Mark. What story would you like to look at, guys? Strictly Come Dancing, Paul, one for you? I'm only joking. What about the Arsenal, top of the league?
Oh, I haven't seen the game, actually. I hear it's quite controversial with regards to the VAR, with VAR at the end. But, you know, you've got to get a bit of luck if you're going to win the league, haven't you? But I'd rather not talk about it.
All I'll say is we were very lucky. We were very lucky. But anyway, on to more serious matters. We deserve some luck. We deserve it. What would you like to talk about, Paul? Your pick.
Yeah, OK, let's go for it. So, it's a shame that this Sadiq Khan thing is not on the front pages, because, my goodness, do I want to talk about that. Yeah, I'd love to. I tell you, I genuinely would love to. I mean, can you imagine if... There's a couple of things going on here. By the way, I believe that Sadiq Khan started the war between Trump and himself. He was the one who made political collateral out of criticising him when he came for his first royal visit, I think in about 2018. They both came to prominence in 2016. I just hate the way that Sadiq Khan operates. I mean, just then, talking about his faith and his skin colour. Donald Trump's a man of colour. He's orange. He never mentions that. I'd love to see Sadiq Khan make a political argument based on fact, just genuine fact. The idea that London is this wonderful bastion of hope and freedom, and that everywhere else, and particularly the US, is bad by comparison, is obviously completely nonsensical. Well, I would argue that Sadiq Khan has ruined London with his ideology. He has pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. If we had metaphorically had our own Nuremberg, when this whole woke business gets washed up and people talk about it, that one of the first persons to stand trial would be Sadiq Khan. He's totally and utterly ruined London by pushing this ideology, Ben, and that's my opinion.
But the other thing as well, which annoys me so much about these spats with Trump, is that it distracts from all of those issues that London are facing. Like, this is not his job. American foreign policy has nothing to do with solving the crime problems in London. Similarly, you know, just because he has ideological problems with Trump doesn't mean that it is in any way part of his job. And this is a broader problem now, Ben. You saw in the local council elections, Greens councillors saying that Palestine was on the ballot as local councillors, whose job fundamentally is to fix potholes, is basically now saying that really it is less important to do the basics of politics and more important to basically indulge your ideology.
Yeah, understood. I will say, Mark and Victoria, maybe you saw my social media, but I was awoken from my beauty sleep a few nights ago, 2 nights, with gunshot firing outside my apartment, 5 or 6. very distinct. Bang, 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 woke me up, jolted me from my sleep. And somebody, it turns out, outside my apartment had been shot in the face 5 or 6 times. The police turned up within a few minutes. So when Sadiq Khan, look, I'm no fan of Sadiq Khan, but I think the stats show that DC, at least, is safer than London. Mark?
The crime rate...
Sorry, London is safer than DC?
Well, the violent crime rate in DC is going down. I'm sorry that you dealt with that. I did see your social media because I want to get an alert every time that you post so I can be up on your life. And I am very sorry that you experienced that. That is something that happens in basically any city you may be in. There's the risk of that. But the violent crime in DC is lower. I don't know what the comparison is between the DC violent crime rate and the London violent crime rate. But there's definitely been dramatic increase in crime fighting here in DC.
Victoria, are you team Trump or team Sadiq, or do you not care?
I mean, again, I think...
He has been very rude, Sadiq Khan. Imagine welcoming somebody to your city and then hoisting a massive blimp of him in a nappy. I mean, it's very rude.
I mean, yes, it was quite rude. I do think that it's, I think that Trump has bigger fish to fry, honestly. Like, this doesn't affect him. I'd much rather see him pick fights with Mamdani in New York, for example, because that actually affects him, affects his businesses. That's the city where he's from. Anytime Mamdani and Trump meet, he's like, oh, well, we both have this great love for New York. But, like, what does Trump actually get out of picking fights with Sadiq Khan? I don't know. No,
it's kind of, go on, Mike, going to say something?
Here we go, just quick fact check. So Washington, D.C., homicide and violent crime rate is, so the homicide 27 per 100,000 residents in DC, 27 per 100,000. London 1 to 1.5 per 100,000.
Really? So 27 times higher in DC?
Let's say 24 times higher because of the 0.5.
Right, there we go. I was never very good at math. Yeah, well, there we go. Actually, a week ago, before the shooting incident outside my apartment 2 nights ago, a week ago, at the metro station I use, somebody got shot in the leg 5 minutes after I left. So that was quite lucky. It wasn't me. There's always time, maybe in a few months. Let's get the thoughts of broadcaster and journalist Jonathan List. Jonathan, hello. Sadiq Khan and President Trump, for me, it's kind of like Arsenal and Tottenham. It's Tottenham yapping from the doldrums at Arsenal, and really they're just insignificant. Sadiq Khan, not very significant. I don't think Trump cares anymore.
Well, look, I mean, I think this is something that Sadiq Khan has said in a newspaper interview, the big issue, I think. So it's not a response to anything that Donald Trump has just said now. But clearly Trump has this kind of weird obsession with Sadiq Khan, and he's been kind of, you wouldn't expect the President of the United States to be sort of picking fights with mayors of random foreign, well, not that London's a random foreign city, but of different foreign cities. And it's interesting, to say the least, that Donald Trump is so exercised by a powerful left-wing Muslim man. But, make of that what you will. Donald Trump has been incredibly rude about Sadiq Khan for many years, and Sadiq Khan has been slightly bemused by it, as have many people, to be honest, because it's not normal for a US president to slag off a London mayor in every sort of interview he does where he talks about London. As your panelist just said, London is actually a lot safer than cities like Washington, D.C. So I don't think that we in London should take any lectures from the Americans on violent crime, of all things. And Sadiq Khan has every right to have made the comments that he has, because everything he said is true.
Well, I wonder, I've forgotten who started it, but I think it was Sadiq Khan with that blimp. So, I mean, President Trump, of course, we know he can be fairly thin-skinned at times.
Donald Trump was incredibly rude about Sadiq Khan. And if you remember, when he came to London for the state visit under Theresa May, he did something which you're not supposed to do, which is to directly attack the Mayor of London. I can't remember the exact language he used, but most independent observers, if there are any, would, I think, conclude that Donald Trump was the one who started this particular row. And when you're the President of the United States, you have significantly higher armory than the London Mayor, and the London Mayor doesn't even have enough the power that even the New York Mayor has, or even sort of some small town mayors in America have more power than the London Mayor has in many ways.
But, okay, I'm not sure who made that rule that you can't attack mayors of the country you're visiting, but
it's not decorum. It's not decorum, man. It's not diplomatic protocol.
Yeah. On a more serious point, why does Sadiq Khan, amid this spat and this war of words, why does he go on about skin colour and the fact I'm brown or Muslim? Trump has never once mentioned his skin colour.
Ben, you know perfectly well that people don't have to directly identify someone's skin color in order to be racist. Donald Trump has a history of racist comments dating back 60 years. And I can't believe that we're even debating this. When he talks about all, sort of black women that he disagrees with as being low IQ, when he says that Somali migrants should go back to where they came from, that Somalia is a garbage country, etc., and that the people there are low IQ. These are textbook racist comments. Even 10 years ago, when he said that sort of a Mexican judge wouldn't be able to, when he said that a Mexican judge wouldn't be able to adjudicate on one of the many legal issues he had, which led even Paul Ryan, the Republican Speaker of the House, to say that was a textbook racist comment. Donald Trump, the idea that Donald Trump isn't racist is the most ludicrous argument I've ever heard. Like, you can have a good faith arguing about many things. The idea that Donald Trump is a racist is not one of those things that I think you can have an argument about, because it just is a naked cast iron fact. Now, what you do with that is the point.
Well, hang on a minute. Let me come back to that. I mean, he calls everybody low IQ who he doesn't agree with. It's not confined exclusively to black women. And also, why is saying Somalia is a dump of a country racist? I mean,
saying that all the Somali immigrants. Ben, please don't insult the intelligence reviewers. When he's saying that Somali immigrants in the United States are low IQ and they should go back to where they came from, there's a word for that, and that's racism. You don't have to. You're the one who keeps defending Donald Trump. So, you should be the one that sort of defends the statements he makes. Or maybe you can say, no, that statement was in fact racist. I'd have more respect for your position, Ben, if you were occasionally say, you know what, hands up, that was racist and racism was bad. But you can't do it because you can't do it because if you were to put a chink in that armour, it would lead the whole edifice to fall down there.
Now,
and then you'd have to admit what has been apparent to most other people for many, many years, which is that Donald Trump is a racist.
Jonathan,
and
you've
that's
had
not
too
good.
much coffee. You've had too much coffee. I don't think it's racist to say Somalia is a dump of a country. I think it probably is in the grand scheme of things.
Is it racist to say that all Somali migrants in America are low IQ, should go back to where they come from? Is that racist or isn't it racist? I'm really interested.
I don't think it's racist.
Okay, fine. Is it racist to say that the Mexican judge is biased because he's Mexican?
Let me just explain why. Let me explain why. Trump's point on that was you've got people like you've got leading Somali politicians here in the United States. The Somali fraud problem as well, and there was a big contingent of Somalis in the United States. This is why he made that comment, saying that the US is a dump, it's an S-hole, this and that, saying that everybody's being racist towards them. So Trump was saying, look, if you don't like it here, in the land of the free, you can just go home. That's what he was saying. I don't think that's racist.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said that Somali immigrants to the United States are low IQ people. If that's not racist, then what is?
Well, I haven't looked at the stats. Maybe Trump's looked at the stats.
We have to redefine the English language itself in order for your arguments to pass. I would have so much more respect if you just said, very occasionally, that was a bad comment. He shouldn't have said it, but you can't bring yourself to do it. And that's what I find so extraordinary about the Trump derangement syndrome.
No, I always say Trump is rude. I think he bullies people, especially reporters of left-leaning reporters who he doesn't agree with. I always say it. I haven't looked at the IQ of Somalis. I doubt you have either. I mean, I can ask AI here, but it's saying that the average IQ for a Somali is often cited as 68. The United States, the IQ average, often standardised near 100 by design of IQ tests, is 98 to 101. So maybe he was looking at those stats. I don't know. Is that racist to point out, if that is true, a fact?
If we're seriously going to go down the route of debating whether black people have lower IQs, I don't know what to say to you. Clearly, these comments are racist, and I could draw up a list of racist comments that Donald Trump has made across his ignominious career. I don't see how it would do us any good. There are some people who support Donald Trump and are able to support Donald Trump despite the fact that he's racist. They acknowledge, yes, he's made some horrible comments, he's made some racist comments, but we're supporting him for these reasons. Now, I actually, I don't agree with it, but at least I have respect for people who are going to say, yeah, he's racist and it's not a deal breaker. For you to sort of contort yourself into all kinds of ridiculous shapes to say, actually, this guy who has a 60-year history of racist comments is not actually racist, I don't know how to debate it, because clearly it's not true. It's like pointing to a red wall and saying it's blue. I can't argue with it. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, he calls everybody low IQ. And again, if you want to look at the facts without getting emotional about it, maybe some countries, some nations do have a lower IQ than other nations. I don't know, but we need to look into it a bit more. But he calls everybody low IQ. In fact, tonight he posted on Truth Social about Fox News and a journalist and guest. He called them low IQ. And they're white. They're white Americans.
Of course. No one's debating. No. Okay, right. Is that the end of the conversation, or are we carrying on?
All right. No, we've got to go, unfortunately. Jonathan, thanks so much. Appreciate it, as always. Take care. Right, that's all from me for tonight. I've got to nip off, but Will Kingston will be taking care of you for the next hour or so. I'll see you in a few days. Good night and sweet dreams. Will, over to you.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking at the week ahead, it is going to be feeling cool for the time of year. We do have sunny spells today and then more in the way of showers as we head midweek. We have an area of low pressure out there today, though, and this cold front is bringing outbreaks of rain across Wales, the Midlands, the southeast of England, and continuing to break up as it pushes its way southwards. To the north of that, though, plenty of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, Northern England, and eventually into Wales. It is feeling cool, though, for the time of year, and with this northerly wind along eastern coast, it's going to be feeling particularly cool here. Through Monday evening then, we actually hold on to a good deal of sunshine initially across much of Scotland, so a fine end to the day here. But to the west, we'll start to see the next weather system approaching, bring some outbreaks of rain across the far west of Scotland. Across Northern Ireland, some late evening sunshine, and that persists across much of southern Scotland into northern England, Wales and the south. Still some showery outbreaks of rain still possible across the southern parts of England. So through Monday evening, we have the next weather front approaching across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So cloud thickening here, some showery outbreaks of rain. Ahead of that, though, we hold on to the clearest skies across the southwest of England into East Anglia and the southeast. So here is going to be another chilly night to come. Temperatures falling away. We could see a touch of frost, but milder now across Scotland and Northern Ireland as we start Tuesday morning, given the amount of cloud cover. So a bright but chilly start across the southeast. That cloud will start building as we head into the afternoon with showery outbreaks of rain again across Wales and the Midlands. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and frequent showers, but for all of us, still rather cool, but hopefully in the sunshine up to 17 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, Kingston, this is The Late Show Live with the stories shaping Britain and America.
But I'm not going to walk away and plunge the country into chaos. I think the right thing to do is to rebuild and show the path forward.
Righto then. The Prime Minister is in big trouble after those dire local election results. Well, breaking tonight, he will give a major speech in London in the morning in which he'll announce closer ties to the EU. Yep, I'm sure that'll do it PM. It comes as Health Secretary Wes Streeting has apparently made a leadership pitch, and former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner says he's on his last chance. Meanwhile, breaking tonight, any hopes of the Iran war being over have been dashed by President Trump after he dramatically rejected their latest offer of a deal, calling it totally unacceptable. I've got more details on that coming later. I'm Will Kingston, and this is The Late Show Live. Welcome to The Late Show Live as I ungracefully move into the hosting chair. And what a good bloke I am to take up the slack for Ben as he knocks off early to go to the pub. Breaking tonight, Sir Keir Starmer will promise sweeping changes to address the big challenges confronting the UK as he battles to save his job in a huge speech tomorrow. The Prime Minister insists his plan will demonstrate hope, urgency and exactly whose side we are on after Labor's disastrous election results in England, Scotland and Wales put his position in peril. On Wednesday, the King's speech will set out his government's priorities for new laws in Parliament. Amongst many things, he will say this Labor government will be defined by rebuilding our relationship by putting Britain at the heart of Europe, so that we are stronger on the economy, on trade, on defence, you name it. Because standing shoulder to shoulder with the countries that most share our interests, our values and our enemies, that is the right choice for Britain. That is the Labor choice. So yet another reset coming our way. It comes as the Telegraph is tonight reporting Wes Streeting has told Sir Keir Starmer he is preparing his case to be the next Prime Minister. I think I read in the Telegraph it was planning, not plotting, which was a lovely little nuance from Wes there. Angela Rayner has really twisted the knife, saying what we are doing isn't working and it needs to change. This may be our last chance. She went on to demand Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham return to Westminster, saying it was a mistake to block his recent attempt. Note that Angela was seen having dinner with Andy Burnham in Manchester only a few weeks ago. With me now is friend of the show, political commentator Matthew Stadlin. I recall maybe a few weeks ago when the Mandelson appointment saga was heating up, you said that Keir Starmer appears to be in the clear. Are you still confident about his job security?
Good morning, Will, and good morning, everyone. Look, it's been a dicey couple of days, hasn't it, for the Prime Minister, because it's never comfortable for any leader, let alone a Prime Minister, when their own MPs, some of their own MPs, still a very, very small percentage of their MPs, actually come out in public, put their hand up and say, you've either got to resign or you've got to set out some sort of process by which you resign, some sort of timetable. But nonetheless, I'm resolute in my prediction, which has stood now for months, even when it was extremely unfashionable, as it still is, that Starmer isn't going anywhere. It is extremely difficult to unsit a sitting Labour Prime Minister. I just don't see it happening this week. You quoted Angela Rayner just then. You've reported on what the Telegraph has been saying about what Wes Streeting has been saying behind the scenes. Neither of them have so far come out and said that they are going to challenge the Prime Minister. Andy Burnham, as we know, doesn't even have a seat. No one's heard until this weekend of Catherine West. I think it's highly unlikely, but not impossible, that she would get the numbers, 81 MPs she needs, publicly to say that they will back her for a contest to be triggered. And even if it were then to be triggered and Wes Streeting and or Angela Rayner puts their hands up and then tries to get the 81 MPs that they may need, I'm not sure about that detail once one has got 81 MPs, but I think they would both have to get 81 MPs of their own. Yep. It's very possible, if not probable, that Keir Starmer would win that leadership election within the Labour Party. So I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think that is largely fair analysis. And I agree with you that I think the likelihood of Starmer surviving through this is underpriced. That's the whether it will happen question, but I wanted to go to the whether it should happen question. Labor MPs said consistently that when they were door knocking, when they were speaking to members of their local communities, there was a unique hatred for Starmer. The level of loathing was unlike anything that they had seen before. He is a uniquely unpopular politician. I know you'll talk about Nigel Farage being unpopular in many circles, but Starmer is uniquely unpopular as a Prime Minister in this country's history. Do you think he should go?
Well, it's a very good question. And of course, everyone watching whose opinion is just as important as mine will have a different view. As you say, there's no doubt he is extremely unpopular. I would say, and you're right to offer what you think my view on Farage should be, Farage is hugely unpopular, and yet he hasn't even been Prime Minister. My belief is that because we now live in a social media driven democracy with all the toxicity that both you and I and everyone else witnesses online, and because at the moment whoever's Prime Minister is governing over a very, very low growth, almost non-existent growth Britain,
yep,
more difficult arguably than ever to be Prime Minister. So the fact that Farage is unpopular, despite not even having been Prime Minister, I think is significant. Do I think there should be a leadership contest? My view is no. Not because I think that Starmer is some fantastic political operator, although he won a landslide victory, cleansed the party of Corbynism, all within one parliament, all within four or 5 years. No, it's precisely because he won that majority as leader of the party that won that landslide, that less than 2 years in, he does actually have a mandate to govern this country. And I don't think, want to become a political country where we have a revolving door around number 10. I don't think that leads to any sort of stability.
But Matthew, just quickly,
the Labour Party as well.
Matthew, you know as well as I do that in a Westminster system, he doesn't have a mandate. The Labor Party has a mandate to govern. But I do want to go back on the
well, that's not quite true, Will. I mean, it's not quite... Look, our unwritten constitution isn't crystal clear on that. There is some truth in it, but also in what I say, that the system that we've had for centuries now is that the person who leads a party when they win a general election tends to have 4 or 5 years to get it right. We're less than 2 years into that. And I think it would be a very different country that we live in if we go down the path that the Conservatives went down of having a revolving door in number 10. It didn't bring the Conservative Party success. It didn't bring the country success. It didn't make things better. So my view has been for a while, Starmer needs to sort it out. He needs to get it right. And if he doesn't get it sufficiently right, which is still perfectly possible, then within a year of the next general election, then have a leadership contest and then say to the British public, okay, you've got a new Prime Minister now, voted for not by you, but by Labour members. Let's now have a general election.
All right, I want to bring in the panel. And Paul, I'll go to you first. The question, which I actually think is a reasonable one, which arises from what I've just said to Matthew, is that there is actually every possibility that if Starmer was to be booted out, the alternative would be worse. And we're now hearing, that the storyline in most of the media is that there would be a lurch to the left, particularly would be if there was a reign of government. Do you think that that Starmer leaving office would actually be would be a problem for this country?
Starmer's the greatest thing to happen to right-wing politics in the UK, probably since the Thatcher era. He's hollowed himself out, he's hollowed the Labour Party out. Matthew, good evening, sir. Do love you, mate, but you have managed to monetise getting things wrong, and I think you're absolutely wrong when it comes to Keir Starmer. I don't know if he'll go this week, but he is definitely a sitting duck Prime Minister, adding no value. You said two very interesting things to me. Farage isn't popular, which I guess is subjective, but he's just won 14,000 seats, of which most of he's taken from Labour, and also that the Tories didn't get things right. But then, of course, Rishi Sunak resigned and triggered a general election. And if that's wrong, we got the Labour Party. So if we didn't get anything better, you're fully admitting the Labour Party is worse than Tories. It's extraordinary view.
You're talking nonsense, mate. You're talking. You say I monetise getting things wrong. What I do is give my view on things. I still think a Labour government is better than a Conservative government, and I certainly think the Labour government is better than a Reform government. And by the way, what I've actually said, while many other commentators, there's almost a media consensus that Starmer would go, if not a couple of months ago or so, then after these May elections. And so far, I've been proved correct. When Sunak became Prime Minister, there wasn't immediately a general election. He and Sir Jeremy Hunt actually did a bit to steady the ship, and eventually there was an election 4 or 5 years after the previous one. 5 years, 4.5 years after the previous one. So I haven't monetised getting anything wrong at all.
I want to go to Angela Rayner and her movements over the next week. Matthew, I thought it was telling when she looked at the local council elections. She raised a lot of issues that the Labor Party needs to grapple with in a social media post. There was one policy area that was conspicuously absent, and that was immigration. It's also the one policy area that has created the biggest emotional or the most anger in the community. Do you think that is a sign that Angela Rayner and the Labor Party more generally still have not got the lesson that people in this country are furious about immigration, and they are sending a message through these local council elections that it needs to change?
It's a very good question that you asked, Will, and I suspect in the unlikely event that Angela Rayner became Prime Minister, I don't think she will, partly for the reasons I've just outlined, partly because if she were to run, if there were a contest, she is, as we understand it, this hasn't been confirmed, still being looked into by HMRC for underpaid stamp duty, for goodness sake, and that strikes me as an extraordinary position for a would-be Prime Minister to be in.
Do you think the Labor base cares about that, though?
Sorry?
Do you think the Labor base cares about that, though?
I don't think she's going to be Prime Minister, but your question on immigration is a fair one. What I would say is Keir Starmer does, I think, get it. Shabana Mahmood gets it. We know that net migration has crashed down since this government came to power. We know that this government is desperate to stop the small boats. The question is, and the debate is around how you stop those small boats. You talked about Nigel Farage earlier. Imagine just for a second that this were him being Prime Minister. He'd probably be giving a speech at Downing Street tomorrow saying, we've got to go harder and faster in getting detention centres in your constituency if you didn't vote reform. just imagine that as a pitch to solidify your prime ministership. It would be completely absurd, and that's one of the reasons why I think he's completely unfit to be Prime Minister of our great country.
So that is referring to Reform's policy they announced recently, in which they said that all detention centres will be placed in areas that vote for the Greens, not in Reform voting areas. Paul, do you agree with that policy?
Well, it's a fair policy. You can't argue it's not fair. If you're in support of open borders, illegal immigration, and giving them all £1,600 a month, which is Zach Polanski is, then having a whole bunch of them in your area would just be delicious, wouldn't it? I mean, the idea, by the way, that Labour and Keir Starmer desperately want to stop the boats, which is exactly what Matthew said, for me is totally nonsensical. It's very easy to stop the boats. We've said this a million times. I mean, just taking a very basic approach of deporting absolutely everybody before they reach the shores would pit people off. Remove all benefits, any benefits, even human rights from people who come here illegally, and soon they will go somewhere else because it will be no benefit of them. Labour could do any one of these things. The Tories could have done any one of these things. You know, we're going to see a massive lurch to the right. The longer this carries on, what we're going to see is huge draconian efforts against illegal immigration, and I think quite a few people in the UK are going to support that.
Sorry, just to pick up on a couple of things there. First of all, it's not fair. You don't, in inverted commas, if you see this, by the way, as a punishment, punish certain voters.
Oh, no, it's not a punishment,
hang on. You don't punish certain voters for voting a certain way. That's point one. Secondly, lots of people in those constituencies, even if you did think it was fair, would be Reform voters, or some of them at least. So they would then be, in inverted commas, being punished by a Prime Minister that they voted for. So it's a totally absurd, populist and nonsense policy. As you say about this lurch to the right, certainly Reform is to the right of the Tories, and those people who are prepared to vote for them are lurching to the right or doing what they've always secretly wanted to do. But 26 or 27% of people in these protest so-called midterm elections, Paul, came out, those who bothered to, came out and voted for Reform. This is hardly some sort of landslide winning leader, is it? It's absolutely critical that we are laser focused on how unpopular Reform remains. I'm not saying Labour's popular. Of course Labour's not popular, but 26% of voters in these local elections were prepared to vote for a party led by Nigel Farage, and that's without the widespread tactical voting that you know, Paul, will almost inevitably happen at the next general election.
Paul, but just before, I'll give you a right of reply before bringing in Mark and Victoria.
So that's a significant number, 20%, and significantly more than Labour, Greens and the Tories. In fact, you can combine any two of those and you still won't reach the popularity of Farage's Reform. So you know, and in terms of a local election, we saw 40+%. I mean, that's just we haven't mentioned Restore tonight, and it hasn't come up. But in not in Kings Lynn, in Great Yarmouth, there was 46% turnout. 46% turnout, and on average across the country, 40% turnout for a local election. And the fact that 20-odd% of those went to Reform, when Reform weren't really a party to be considered 2 years ago, is incredible. Extrapolate that out over the next 2 years, particularly if Keir Starmer stays in government, then I think there's a massive tidal wave coming.
Mark,
I'm not even saying, just quickly, very quickly,
for
a second saying it's not a political achievement of Nigel Farage, against whom I stand on so much. Of course it is a political achievement that a party with only 8 MPs or so has been leading the polls consistently now for a year and a half or whatever it is. That is a political achievement. What I'm talking about is whether he's going to get to number 10 and have 5 years to run this country. It's not impossible. It's certainly not impossible that Reform are the biggest party at the next election and then have to do a deal with the Tories, even though they're toxically opposed to each other. What I'm saying is, let's not pretend that Nigel Farage is leading some sort of mass majority movement, because he's far from doing that.
Well, Mark, the thing here is that it is now, with the fragmented nature of politics in the UK, almost impossible to get majority, as in 50+1% support in this country now. We are seeing a 2 to 2.5 party system move towards being a 5, potentially 6 party system. Now, obviously, the US system is structured in a way which makes that much more difficult. But what do you think the impacts of this political fragmentation will be for the United Kingdom? And do you see it as a negative thing for the polity?
Is that to me?
I was actually really struck by something that Angela Rayner... Oh, I'm sorry. Was that for me?
Yes, it was for you, Mark.
Okay, sorry. I was really struck by something that Angela Rayner said in her statement, where she said, quote, countries including Spain and Canada have shown their economies can grow. And I was as an American observer, I was struck by her mention of those two countries. Spain, as we all know, is in the EU, and the UK is not. But also Canada. Remember, at the World Economic Forum, Prime Minister Mark Carney got up there and he gave this seminal speech that kind of caused shockwaves around the globe when he talked about middle powers going their own way. And of course, Canada has had its #1 trading relationship with the U.S., and now that things are on the skids with the U.S., they're looking to sign deals with other countries. And so when you have the fragmentation you're talking about, I think that there are a lot of people on this side of the pond wondering where that leaves these other countries and where the UK sees its future role. Is it one of engagement or is it one of division? That's what struck out to me.
Victoria, do you think, we've spoken a bit previously on the show tonight about the choice that has been framed between the UK moving closer to the European Union or trying to build and develop further the relationship with the United States. Do you see that as being a choice that must be made, or do you see it as a false dichotomy?
I think that both things can't be true, and I think that really comes down to culture. That's something we talk about a lot on this show is, it seems like most of the EU is absorbing cultures from other parts of the world that are, in the view of many voters, diametrically opposed to what the UK has stood for and, would probably like to continue to stand for in the future. And so I think that choice is as much a cultural one as it is an economic one.
Lady, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Matthew, thank you for staying up for the conversation. Let's move on now. We are going to discuss the continuing war in Iran. Donald Trump has tonight dashed any hopes of a ceasefire after seeing Iran's response to a US proposal for peace talks to end the war. Tonight he said, and I quote, "I have just read the response from Iran's so-called representatives. I don't like it. Totally unacceptable." Well, in response to that, reports out of the Middle East say from Iran say that his response doesn't matter at all. That is from Iranian state media. His response doesn't matter at all in response to the President of the United States. Iran's proposal stressed the need for the United States to pay compensation for war damages and emphasised Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. It comes after Iran's deputy minister on X said the presence of French and British warships in the Strait of Hormuz, potentially accompanying the illegal and internationally unlawful actions of the US, will be met with immediate, decisive response. I do find it deeply ironic, the Iranian regime using international law when it suits them. With me now is Middle East policy analyst Harley Lipman. Harley, lovely to have you on the show. Get us up to date on the latest updates in this conflict. Where do we sit this morning?
Well, certainly publicly, as we can hear, the United States and Iran are miles apart. It's not even close. That Iran is looking for the United States to pay reparations, never going to happen. That Iran is looking for the United States to recognize Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, which is an international open waterway, never going to happen. So I don't see a resolution coming through with these negotiations. And the way I see it is that the leadership of Iran are somewhat delusional. They think they're winning. I mean, they have a very low bar. They describe themselves as winning because they survived. But let's look at what survival looks like. Inflation is over 100%. Their currency is worthless. Millions of people have been unemployed due to the war. They're losing $500 million a day in oil revenue because of the American blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. Their economy is teetering on collapse. It didn't collapse yet. Everybody's asking when. No one knows for sure. but it's a matter of weeks, perhaps, maybe a month or two at most. But in the context of wars, this is very short. Wars go on a very long time. Just look at Russia and Ukraine. They're in their fifth war now, fifth year of the war.
I want to pick up. I just want to pick up on that point around the state of Iran today. And you're right that the country is suffering a lot of pain, but the argument would be that the Iranian regime can take a lot more pain than the United States. They fundamentally don't care about their people.
That's true.
They are not accountable as a democracy. So some people would say to you, well, you know what, they're just going to cling on and basically try and wait it out because Trump is getting less and less popular as the war goes on. Europe and the UK are deeply unhappy about it, and the American people want to see a quick resolution.
All that is true, and you could add to it the midterm elections. The price of gas is going to go up. Even among his own base, there's a real skepticism about never-ending wars. So the list goes on, why I understand how Iran thinks that they can wait it out. They're also very much reading the North Vietnamese handbook and how they handled negotiations with the United States. So they're trying to drag it out. It is a test of wills. But everybody has underestimated President Trump. And while everything you said and I pointed out is technically correct, at the end of the day, when they run out of money, and that's going to happen soon, and they can't pay the IRGC soldiers and the Basij soldiers who repress the population, I'm not sure those soldiers are going to shoot on their own people when they're not getting paid. And while it's true they're going to pass the burden on to their own people, there's a point where everybody has a breaking point. And Iran has it too. They just haven't hit the wall yet. But when they do, they're going to collapse and all that bravado is going to fall away.
Yeah, time will tell on that score. The one other thing which I'm curious about, which I referred to in the previous hour, is it feels to me, and my view is UK-centric, but it feels to me in the UK, in Europe and in the US that there is a sentiment which is starting to settle amongst the everyday man and woman and indeed amongst the media that this war was a mistake. And it's one of those ones where in the pub it is just taken as read. Oh yeah, this was folly. And it feels to me like that is partially because the White House have stopped trying to tell the story as to why this was important. Both, I think, a really clear moral imperative to go after the evil Iranian regime, the necessity to stop them from getting a nuke, the necessity to degrade their military capabilities, to wipe out their leadership. I think they actually have still a good story to tell. But it feels to me they are losing the messaging war now because they are not going out and arguing for it.
You make a great point. In many ways, they are losing the messaging war. And this is where the Iranians excel. It would have been a lot better if the president early on did what probably other presidents would have done, sat down at the Oval Office on a Friday night at 9 o'clock and laid out very clearly all the reasons why we need to go to war against Iran. And he didn't do that. He's not disciplined. He's spontaneous. But there are two main reasons that we have to keep in mind why this war is a good idea. And we are where we are. Yes, maybe it wasn't thought out well enough in the beginning. Yes, Iran is able to turn the tables on us by blackmailing nations and closing the Straits of Hormuz. That happens in a war. The enemy has a vote, and there are losses and wins. But in looking at this, let's go to the fundamentals. Reason one why we went to war is that no nation, certainly in American history, has ever been more obsessed with destroying the United States than Iran. And when your adversary says they want to kill you, it's arrogance to think we know better what they mean than their own words. From taking American hostages to blowing up the American embassy in Beirut, to blowing up the Marine barracks and killing hundreds of Americans. They bled us in Afghanistan. They bled us in Iraq. They've tried to assassinate the President of the United States twice. They've tried to assassinate members of his cabinet from the first administration. This is a regime that is truly an existential threat to the United States. They're building ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, with the sole purpose to carry a nuclear warhead to reach the United States. Now, why do you think that is? So I think that's reason one. Reason two, President Trump has a strategy on China, which previous American presidents didn't have, which is leveraging oil. By taking oil from Venezuela and Iran, It would make it very difficult for Iran to go to war against Taiwan, which could bring on a bigger, more catastrophic World War III. So I think that's the second reason why he's taken on this war.
Well, I think that's well articulated. I'd just like to hear it come from the White House as opposed to from our wonderful commentators on GB News. Harley, thank you very much for your time this morning. Still ahead on The Late Show Live. Eventually. Still ahead on The Late Show Live.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Looking at the week ahead, it is going to be feeling cool for the time of year. We do have sunny spells today and then more in the way of showers as we head midweek. We have an area of low pressure out there today though, and this cold front is bringing outbreaks of rain across Wales, the Midlands, the southeast of England and continuing to break up as it pushes its way southwards. To the north of that though, plenty of sunny spells across Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, Northern England and eventually into Wales. It is feeling cool though for the time of year, and with this northerly wind along eastern coast it's going to be feeling particularly cool here. Through Monday evening then, we actually hold on to a good deal of sunshine initially across much of Scotland, so a fine end to the day here, but to the west we'll start to see the next weather system approaching, bring some outbreaks of rain across the far west of Scotland. Across Northern Ireland, some late evening sunshine, and that persists across much of southern Scotland into northern England, Wales and the south. Still some showery outbreaks of rain still possible across the southern parts of England. So through Monday evening, we have the next weather front approaching across Scotland and Northern Ireland. So cloud thickening here, some showery outbreaks of rain. Ahead of that, though, we hold on to the clearest skies across the southwest of England into East Anglia and the southeast. So here it's going to be another chilly night to come. Temperatures falling away. We could see a touch of frost, but milder now across Scotland and Northern Ireland as we start Tuesday morning, given the amount of cloud cover. So a bright but chilly start across the southeast. That cloud will start building as we head into the afternoon with showery outbreaks of rain again across Wales and the Midlands. Behind that it is a case of sunny spells and frequent showers, but for all of us still rather cool, but hopefully in the sunshine up to 17 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Let's delve into some of the main stories on tomorrow's front pages. The iPaper, today or never to save your job, Labor MPs tell Starmer. We certainly have a big week ahead in British politics. The Mail, Streeting and Rayner ready for Starmer's fall. Planning, not plotting, apparently, Wes Streeting. The Mirror, change before it's too late. The Guardian, Labor leadership rivals circle as Starmer tries to cling to power. Metro, sensing a theme, fight or go, Challenger tells Starmer. The Times, PM fights to save his skin after Rayner ultimatum. The Telegraph, Streeting, I'm ready to be PM. And The Sun splashes with Strictly, it's Emma. That's Emma Willis, the new host of Strictly Come Dancing. It also features Rayner, Last Chance Keir, and The Express, how dare he, the PM plots to rip up Brexit. Well, we've covered the Labor leadership turmoil. I want to turn to another story that is in tomorrow's papers, and I should say today's papers, and that is Donald Trump is being accused of using the Falkland Islands as a political pawn amid growing tensions between Washington and London and Buenos Aires. The Telegraph is reporting. The head of the Falklands government claims the US is playing games with British sovereignty after leaked Pentagon emails suggested America could review its position on the islands. Argentina has since renewed calls for talks over the territory, with President Javier Milei insisting the Falklands were, are and always will be Argentine. Again, I've been a huge Javier Milei fan for his libertarian politics, but he's turned me off a bit with this silliness around the Falkland Islands. We also have coming from another story coming through tomorrow, which I will get to shortly, but I do want to cover the Falklands conversation with my panel. Paul, I'll go to you first. The concern that I have is not necessarily around the US reconsidering its support for the British claim to the sovereign, to the Falkland Islands. It is that if there was some form of a contest, whether it be in the international law courts or, heaven forbid, another armed conflict, I'm not sure this Labor government would have the stomach to fight for it.
Well, that is a worry. I think actually this is all brinkmanship from Donald Trump. I think that he's just playing the politique between London and Washington. And why wouldn't he, particularly with the sort of friendship that he's not met with from this Labour government? Look, there's no mandate. And if this was any other country in the world, our Labour government would be saying, well, what do the people of that country think? Well, the people of the Falklands unanimously vote to be ruled over by Great Britain. So that is done and dusted. Anything that the Argentines want or can claim geographically simply would not be backed up by any mandate from the people that live on the Falklands Islands. Trump is tinkering when he shouldn't be, but I understand why he is, because he's trying to get things out of London which he can't, because he doesn't seem to be able to form any sort of sensible relationship with Keir Starmer, Will.
Yeah, the Falklands are famously more British than the British. If it was to ever go to a vote, I don't think the Argentines would pick up a single one. Victoria, the Telegraph has said Donald Trump is using the Falklands as a political pawn to punish Britain for failing to back his war in Iran. That's from the head of the island's government. Fair comment?
I think that is fair, but I mean, look, you also have to look at the relationship that Trump has with Milei. You know, Milei's got a lot of fans on the American right, and that has translated, I think, to a better than expected relationship with Trump. And so I think this may be a card that Milei is pulling kind of a favor out of that relationship that he has maintained. Of course, I believe we may have talked a few months ago about, for example, the Argentine beef deal. So, you know, it really does seem to look like Trump, or that Milei has Trump's ear. And, you know, I think if Trump is willing to use this as a way to really kind of stick his elbow in London's ribs, I guess, if you will, he kind of, I think, sees this as a way both to have a better relationship with Milei, but also stick it to London.
At the same time, Mark, this has made a lot of people in this country very angry. 255 British men died in the Falklands conflict in the 80s. It was hard fought and hard retained, I should say. For Trump to be this cavalier with this language, do you think it's a particularly wise strategy from him?
Well, Paul makes what could be a very astute point, which is this a chess move? Is this being used as a pressure point, another pressure point from President Trump right now onto the UK government? Quite frankly, there's only one question that I care about right now. Who leaked the emails? Mm-hmm. Who leaked these documents saying that the administration may be reconsidering its position here? When you know that, you know exactly who did it and why.
Care to take a guess?
I don't.
Very, very wise. But you're right, that is an intriguing part of this conversation. Of course, the Falklands was one of several territories that was listed, which could have particularly be reconsidered by the US. Spain also came in for pretty heavy potential punishment as well. Paul, there is, again, I want to go back to that broader question around Labor's affiliation with not just this country but overseas territories and you know the relics of the empire. How confident are you that there would be a firm defence of the Falkland Islands from this government?
I'm not particularly confident. I'm not particularly competent is not the statement I meant. I'm not particularly confident at all, particularly in this form of Labour government is unpatriotic. They would almost side with any other country ideology against our own. That's demonstrably true. I mean, just look at the Chagos deal. There was nothing in that for Great Britain and everything in it for anybody else. I think that they secretly harbour disdain, if not hatred, towards anything think that the British built in the past, particularly when it comes to our empire, of which these are legacies. And I think that they have every right, moral right, they believe, to give these things back. And I think they're entirely wrong. I think they need to start being more patriotic. You know, we're all forced to go on training, not at GB News, because GB News just aren't that way inclined. But when I had a real job in the real world, you'd be forced to go on sort of what I used to call correction training, so that you thought correctly, unbiased biased consciousness, that sort of thing. And I think that it's time that we took this Labour cabinet, this Labour government, and trained them in patriotism, trained them that supporting the flag in any way is not something to be sneered at, trained them to be pro-British, and then we wouldn't ask questions like this.
Yeah, I think that'd be a pretty long, arduous, difficult training course. Thank you, panel. We will return to you a bit later, but I want to go to a story which is being reported on the World Cup, which is coming up in the United States. World Cup ticket prices are fluctuating sharply ahead of next month's tournament, with some resale seats now selling for less than half of the price of tickets still available direct from FIFA. The governing body, the governing body's dynamic pricing model has pushed some premium seats into the thousands of dollars, with Donald Trump joking he wouldn't pay either when asked about four-figure ticket prices for the United States opening game. At the same time, banks are warning supporters to watch for ticket scams, with Lloyds saying ticket fraud rose by 36% during current Premier League season. Scammers are increasingly using fake resale posts, bogus QR codes and unofficial social media listings to trick fans into paying for tickets that don't exist. With me now, trial attorney and professor at the USF Sports Management Graduate Program, Derek Howard. Derek, delighted to have you on the show. What's going on here?
Thanks for inviting me.
What's going on here? Explain the situation for me.
Okay. Well, right now, nobody is talking about what matters most, which is the matches. What people are talking about are being priced out of going to the World Cup. And I might add, this is of particular interest in the UK because of the loyal following, for example, from Scotland and England. These people are being shut out because even if they could afford to get a ticket, which they can't, the travel and other miscellaneous charges are so extensive that it's beyond the reach of the average fan that makes this such a great global event.
Yeah, so there's been so many controversies with FIFA over the years. I would argue they have been, I wouldn't argue they have been a particularly well-run sporting governing body. Where does the blame lie here? Is this with FIFA? Is it with the American Football Association? What's the story there?
Okay, to make it easy, the U.S. Football Association, known as the United States Soccer Federation, has nothing to do with the pricing. And in fact, the tickets for the opening match, they've sold about half of them in Los Angeles. Again, that's a simple issue of pricing. FIFA is a world unto itself. They are seeking to maximize revenue, and it's very opaque as to what they do with once they get the money. But even if we assume the best of intentions on the part of FIFA, they're using a tool called dynamic pricing to create a market where they're saying that the demand far exceeds what's available. That's not true. Unlike other World Cups, where the prices, at least up into Qatar, were affordable. In Russia, the tickets were affordable. In the United States right now, the tickets are not affordable. I've been around the game for too long to say because it would be a little bit embarrassing, but I played, I coached, I raised daughters that played in the game, and I coached them. I coached dozens and dozens of teams at a fairly high level. This community in the States is shut out. And I get phone calls every week about what can we do? And the answer is not much.
It's a shame that this is overshadowing what should be a wonderful global sporting event. Derek Howard, thank you for joining us on the show this morning. I want to go to my panel now on this, and I'll go to the US because they are on the ground at the moment. Victoria, obviously, the football as a sport in the United States is not nearly as popular as American football. It obviously has a following, but the following is comparatively small. Are people excited? Do people care about the upcoming World Cup?
I think they are excited. I think that many people are going to try to go to games across the country, but I also think people are a little bit apprehensive, particularly when it comes to things like some of the security concerns. Of course, we had unfunded DHS for weeks on end here, and we had quite a high number, hundreds of TSA agents that quit, and so that's definitely, I think, something that is in the back of people's minds of, am I safe going to places that are going to be large gatherings of individuals that could be targets for bad actors? And I think that's a very valid concern, and I wonder to how much that may deter attendance at some of these games as well.
Yeah, Mike, what do you make of this? Do you think that the country is ready to host the World Cup, and do you think it is engaging the public in the way that one would hope?
Well, the comment a moment ago that the focus is on anything but the games, it's on the New Jersey transit ticket prices, it's on the price for tickets to the stadiums, it's on the fact that if you bought the lowest tier, you're ending up with an obstructed view, or people accusing the tickets of not being accurate. That is overshadowing this World Cup in a lot of the reporting and the people that I talk to. And I have contacts in one of the host cities in the business community, and they are extremely worried that the fans will not show up. These businesses have plunked down tons of thousands of US dollars to expand storefronts, to do special types of packages for consumers, to have different lodging packages, all of these things. They're worried the crowds won't materialize because of all this negative publicity, the ticket prices being sky high. It's a real perception problem, and as we all know, perception quickly becomes reality.
Yeah, Paul, dare I say it, but if you were to put the World Cup in a football-mad country like France or like Germany, you wouldn't be concerned about stadiums being empty. It would be a foregone conclusion that people would be rocking up. Have FIFA erred in awarding this event to the United States?
No, I don't believe so. I think it is right to award it to all countries around the world, particularly in countries where it's not as popular as it is in Europe and Asia and places like that. Look, this is the biggest world sporting event. You don't need to make tons of money from dynamic ticket pricing, which is a peak capitalism even I'm uncomfortable with. The sponsorship deals alone would make your eyes water. What this is an opportunity to do is do what Mark was saying and ease those concerns by giving communities where they're hosting these games relatively affordable tickets so the families can take their kids, all the families can go along, they can enjoy football/soccer for what it is, which is an incredible sport, and it's the very peak of the sport, the World Cup. There's no need to charge $1,000, $1,500 per ticket and just sell to the highest bidder of people that might not even turn up because they don't care about the game. They just want the tickets, or they're going to sell them on. This should be a community event. They've missed a trick here. I believe that it's great that the US are holding the event. I think it's actually across the US and Canada, isn't it? Perhaps I'm wrong there. But irrespective of whether I'm right or wrong, there is definitely a need to do better here.
Yeah, agreed. And I think particularly with this dynamic pricing, it just leads to a lack of trust. I think they had the same problem with the Oasis event, and they quickly rectified that. Let's move on, because I want to touch on a story which shouldn't be controversial, but in today's day and age, it is. Turning Point USA CEO Erica Kirk has told students to prioritise marriage, faith and family over career ambition. In an emotional commencement address, the widow of the late Charlie Kirk told students their real purpose was to build strong families and create a lasting legacy.
Charlie would often encourage people, like Dr. Arnn said, to get married young, not rushed, but young. I just want to encourage all of you To the men, you are called to provide. You are called to lead, to anchor your families in strength and consistency. To the women, you are called to nurture, to build, to shape lives with wisdom and endurance.
The speech has drawn praise from Conservative supporters online, whilst critics argue the message risks reinforcing outdated expectations around gender and success. I will go back to the panel on this. Paul, this is a message which should not be controversial. It says a lot about the age in which we live, that for some people it is.
Oh, this version of modernity I really dislike. The idea that we're measuring success by pounds and pence or dollars and cents is utterly ridiculous and will be the downfall of humanity. That's essentially what these people are saying that are against this. They're saying gender-based success, it means that the men goes out and earn and the women out at home not doing much but looking after the children. The women in this deal have the toughest job but the best and most rewarding job, irrespective of what it pays monetarily. I'm not saying that every woman should be at home, you know, nurturing children, but let's not for a second undermine the value of women and mothers in this world. And essentially that's the message. The nuclear family, parents, you know, mother and father, children being looked after by the mother, which is a fantastic way to look after children. The father going out, protecting, leading and providing. There is nothing wrong with this. It might seem old-fashioned, but up until about 1960, that was the formula that worked for millennia. You know, and it worked very well. It can still work now. It doesn't mean you can't have a slice of all the pie, but to undermine it and say that, oh, it's not framing success in the right way, for me, it's almost dangerous to talk about life that way.
Yeah, Victoria, do you see this as being, you know, inherently against, say, you know, the feminist project? Do you think this is a problem or a storm in a teacup?
Well, I think the audience that Erica Kirk had, of course, it was an audience of graduates, but this is Hillsdale College. They are a traditional, you know, not pretty conservative college. They're based in Michigan. Plenty of their grads work, for example, across the current Trump administration. So this isn't really like she went to a massive public university that has, you know, 50,000 people. This is a small liberal arts college that, you know, I think was more receptive to her message. I think there would be more criticisms if this was, you know, a large state university that she had delivered this address to. But I think for that audience, it was the right message.
Mark, a separate but related question without notice. Erica Kirk has been one player in what is this increasingly fractured civil war almost on the American online right, where you have people like Ben Shapiro in really violent disagreements with people like Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens. Erica Kirk and her and conspiracy theories around her complicity in Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I should hastily point out there is no evidence for, has been one topic of discussions in that conversation on the online right. What do you make of these sorts of conversations that are going on at the moment in American conservative and right-wing discourse?
Well, first of all, you're not giving me an opportunity to say Happy Mother's Day since we're on the topic of mothers and raising children. That's why I wore my pink tie tonight. So you can't move on before I can say Happy Mother's Day, which it is here in the U.S. I realize that the UK has a different day. So, hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. I would say, as you have pointed out and as Victoria pointed out, this speech was definitely appropriate for that audience. Now, to your point about this, I don't know, I've seen in some media calling it a MAGA civil war or something like that. What's that saying? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And at the end of the day, whatever discourse is going on the right, I think that there's a common way that they're trying to, of course, beat the Democrats and win coming up this year, the midterm. So it's causing a lot of fireworks here, absolutely, but I do think that they are united come November.
Well, that's a wonderful segue on Mother's Day, and of course a happy Mother's Day to mothers in America and in Australia as well. And we have a story on this. Shoppers are expected to spend more on Father's Day gifts than they did on Mother's Day this year. Research by My Voucher Codes suggests the average spend on dads will reach 54 quid or 54.38, nearly 15 quid more than the typical spend on mums. Alcohol and food top the list of Father's Day gifts, followed by gift cards, while jewellery appears to be the least popular choice. Paul, yet more institutional misogyny at play here?
No, it's just that dads are the best, and this is just playing out in no, I'm joking. It's interesting to see. When I was listening to you give the preamble there, I was thinking the gifts that dads have. It seems quite simple. Just give them sort of food and beer and sports-related stuff, and they'll probably be happy. Allow them to sit in the corner all day. I think it is more difficult to buy for women, but do you know what? I've always just bought my mum flowers and chocolates and said thanks very much. I don't think it's that difficult thing to do, but I am pleased to see that men are winning in this.
Victoria is the only lady on the panel. Your right of reply.
Well, I actually want to push back. I think men are actually harder to shop for because at least the men in my life, they will kind of go out and buy themselves anything that they need. And so when it comes to gifting, I think they are harder to shop for. But yeah, I also think men's gifts kind of on the, I guess I would call it like the lower average, are probably more expensive. Think stakes like hard liquor and, alcohol and, golf supplies, right? I don't know how popular golf is in the UK, but it's quite popular here. And then of course on the other side, I think women, we kind of have a broader spectrum. I think we have the less expensive things like flowers, and then we have the more expensive things like jewelry and designer handbags. And so I think kind of the two extremes may mean that that's why the male average is higher.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Paul, very quickly, why do you think the UK does not align, or I should say why the UK and the US do not have the same Mother's Day?
I don't know why. I think it's the US being awkward. That's all it can be. That's the logic I'm going to come up with.
I think that's as good an answer as we will come up with tonight. A big thank you for spending your night with The Late Show Live, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, thank you to my panel, Mark, Victoria and Paul. And of course, to the great Ben Leo for the first 2 hours. Bev will be back tomorrow midnight in the UK, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's all from us this morning on another wonderful day for GB News. See you tomorrow.